The New York Knicks have officially canned Tom Thibodeau after their Eastern Conference Finals meltdown. We are going to dive all into this and then talk about what's next for the Knicks in terms of, well, who's going to be their next head coach? Are they going to trade for a superstar or whatever else they may need to do? But before I do that, Mars, John, and Chill, I would love to talk about this with you guys, but it's just a better person that I think can actually help us really get to the bottom of this. Carson, what's going on, man?
What's up, everybody? I'm very happy to be here, as always. Pumped to talk some ball.
Hello.
Yeah. I like this. All
right, fellas, before we dive fully into it, I just want to put a couple things into context. Now, Tom Thibodeau's been there, head coach for 5 years, right? Well, would this be crazy if I told you guys that in 5 seasons, he has won 4 playoff series? And in the previous 20 years before Tom Thibodeau was there, Chill, you know how many playoff series they won, right?
Uno.
1. Tom Thibodeau has 24 playoff wins. The other 13 coaches before him, Chill, you know how many they have? No, they have, playoff wins.
Oh, playoff wins. I'm sorry.
7 playoff wins.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
And it's just crazy that after Eastern Conference Finals run, last year, semifinals run, that he's gone. Or is it not crazy, Carson?
I don't think it's crazy. I'm actually good with the decision. I do understand some of the complaints with Tibbs, just in terms of not being a creative offensive mind, maybe not getting the most out of the Brunson Cat 2-man game, or maybe wanting to see Cat utilized a little bit more as a 3-point shooter with volume. And then I get some of the rotational complaints. Like, I think that he definitely stuck with Josh Hart a lot, despite the fact that he was pretty ineffective in a lot of those playoff lineups. And I would have liked to see them go to Deuce McBride more. So I don't view Tibbs as an elevator. And for that reason, I'm fine with New York wanting to try to take that next step and find a guy who they do think can be that. My thing with it is, I know a lot of Knicks fans were really mad at Tibbs. And I think we sort of passed the scapegoat threshold where people started thinking like, okay, once we get Tibbs out of here, we're going to be good. I don't think that's the case. I do think that there are some core roster issues with a team being constructed around Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns defensively. That is just so difficult to build a serious group around those two guys. And then also, their depth just wasn't good. You know, I actually give Tibbs props for turning to guys like Landry Shamet and DeLon Wright and actually getting decent playoff minutes from that. People joke about him never utilizing the bench, but he didn't really have a bench, and he was actually able to get more out of those guys than I expected in the Eastern Conference Finals. So I'm good with it, but it's just one step out of a number of things that the Knicks need to address if they want to become an actual title contender.
My issue, Carson, is if you are unsure about this girl, you're not sure about her, why are you marrying her? You think you're gonna marry her, but you're not sure. So why do the Knicks end up extending Thibodeau last season for for 4 years at $30 million? I mean, I think that's just bad business, because I think this was a knee-jerk reaction. Either you're sure about Tibbs or you're not. You're not gonna extend him for 4 years, and then the very next year, when you surpass what you did the previous season, now you're gonna come off of him. Now, is Tibbs a bridge quarterback? Maybe. Tibbs might be the guy just to get you to the NFC Championship. Tibbs might be the guy just to get you to the bowl game, but not exactly get you over the hump. Maybe that's the case. But I think you knew that previous to hiring him or extending him. I think you knew that. So if that's the case, then I feel like that's bad business on your part. Number 2, we got to stop acting like Tibbs never used his guys. He used Shamet. I keep calling him Shamet. I'm sorry, it's Shamet. He used Shamet. He used Miles. He used Precious. Josh Hart, I've always felt like, and Mars and I have gotten into this, I've always felt like Josh Hart is a rotation guy. I never thought he was a starter. I always thought that he was better coming off the bench. Very much like what was going on with Derek White in Boston. I know what you guys see from Derek White. I thought he was better coming off the bench, like a Ginobili kind of player. However, with Tibbs, this is where the exit meetings come in. What I mean when I say that, Ron, is when we sit down and we talk to Tibbs at the end of the season, all right, what's the problem? Okay, our offense needs to change. Well, if our offense needs to change, how does our offense need to change? What about these rotation guys? What do I need to get you in order for you to dig deeper into your bench? Because it's obvious that you don't like what you have going on. You don't like what you have going on with your bench. What do I need to get you in order for you to dig deeper into your bench? Because he did that with Minnesota. With Indianapolis. But I think he did it out. I think he did it out of necessity. He didn't do it because like this is who I am and this is what's a part of what we got going on. I mean, Rick Carlisle played 10 guys. He knew that he couldn't win the series if he played 6 or 7 guys. So he dug into the bench, and we saw lineups that we didn't see throughout the course of the season. So I think that the Knicks management, I feel like they're just as much on the hook as Thibs is.
I think this is like the domino effect of what's about to happen in the Eastern Conference, because with Jason Tatum going down, I think there's going to be a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference that are going to be aggressive. They look at Tom Thibodeau and be like, look, we just got to the conference finals. The Boston Celtics are probably going to have a gap year in terms of championship contention. Let's try and get a new coach in there that can bring the best out of our offensive pieces in OG, in Mikal, in Cat, because we kind of saw a blueprint. You know, you stagger the minutes between Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson. You put a better defensive team around them. You try and get a little bit more out of Mikal and OG because you have the personnel to kind of stagger a little bit of offensive responsibility between these guys. So I do think some of it is roster, but I also think some of it is just bringing the best out of this team offensively, because when we look at some of these teams like Cleveland, like Indiana, I think there's going to be a lot of teams trying to be a little bit more aggressive because the Eastern Conference may be wide open. It may not be just Boston reigning over the entire Eastern Conference like we've seen over the past maybe year or so. So I think this is the very first domino to fall, and I think the Eastern Conference is probably going to be full of teams trying to be like, you know what? We may have a shot this year. So let's bring in a new head coach. Let's bring in a couple more guys. Let's try and be more aggressive for a third or fourth starter for our team, and let's try and go all the way.
John D, can I counter that with, if that's the case, why did you? Because I feel like with this Knicks team, first of all, 2 questions. Number one, did the door in the Eastern Conference, did it just fly open in your estimation?
I think it did.
With that being said, I mean, the Knicks, I feel like they pushed all their chips to the front of the table when this season started. I don't think that they did. I don't think they made these moves to just be good. I think that they made these moves to get past the Celtics. Now, with that being said, what's next for this team? Because you gave up all your ones for Mikal Bridges, right? In addition to giving up all your ones, you paid OG Anunoby. I don't think Giannis is available for what you have, because I'm having a really difficult time seeing Milwaukee hand over Giannis for like OG Anunoby and I mean, I don't see Milwaukee handing Giannis over for that. I don't think that's a good deal. What's next? If that's the case, what's next for this New York Knicks team?
That's the troubling question, because the Knicks are kind of like, this is a very successful year, but it kind of ended on a sour note because you beat Boston, but then you lose in the conference finals. It's like you get that major chance, and then you let your fan base down, or you let yourselves down, and now it's like, are we good enough to get to the conference finals consistently? Did we have some luck go our way? So I think it's about rounding out the depth. I think you have the offensive pieces. Maybe you get a little bit more 3-and-D guys on the bench that can come in and play with Cat and come in and play with Brunson. Maybe you get a more athletic big off the bench that can run the floor with JB. Just have some guys that can switch more and just not lean so much on Josh Hart, because when he's hurting you, when he's not making shots from 3, when he's lazy on defense, when his attitude is like ruining the minutes that he's on the floor, you need to have somebody else you can go to. So I think it's just rounding out the second unit and rounding out some pieces that can fit next to Cat, that can move off ball while he plays down low, or just have somebody that can play off ball to Jalen Brunson.
So it sounds like it's just more roster flaws than Thibs. I mean, you go back-to-back seasons winning 50 games. Your roster clearly improved, and you improved in the playoffs. You beat the Celtics, who nobody thought you could beat. Last year you were in the second round. This year you were in the Eastern Conference or Eastern Conference Finals. I guess it sounds like they improved. They just need to improve a little bit more.
They definitely need to improve more. I would say more than a little bit more. And I do think a lot of it is roster. I also think like you can definitely point at Thibs with some of this stuff. I do think that there's a little bit more juice to be squeezed out of the offense with a more creative mind. I do think, again, some of the rotation stuff in the starting 5, and even when he did finally make a change, I didn't get why it was Mitchell Robinson over Deuce McBride. I didn't like that. I thought that going double big against a team that plays as fast as Indiana, that pushes with such pace, that moves the ball so well, like those groups were going to get exploited defensively, and they did. So Thibs definitely didn't win in the chess match of these playoffs, and sometimes sometimes that's enough justification. You have to feel like we need a guy who can go out there and outcoach some of the other best coaches in basketball when you're trying to make that big push. But I would go further than John D. I would say that, like, I think major change is needed. I would trade Karl-Anthony Towns if I were the Knicks. I don't think they're going to this offseason because they already traded Julius Randle for him last year, right? They invested in him as the co-star with Brunson. And now firing Thibs makes me feel even more confident that probably, like, that's their big move for the offseason. And now they're going to see, okay, what can we do on the margins? I just think when you have one of the worst defensive guards on the planet and you have one of the worst defensive centers on the planet, it is exceedingly difficult to get stops against an actual great offense like Indiana, who is going to bring one of those two guys, if not both of those guys, into the action every time down and exploit them. Like in these playoffs, when Cat and Brunson were on the floor together, the Knicks had a 119 defensive rating, and they lost those minutes by a good bit. Garbage. Like, we can talk about having to improve the offense a little bit. You can't win a title if you can't get a stop. And the Knicks, with Cat and Brunson on the floor together, were largely incapable of doing anything to make opposing teams uncomfortable. Their best minutes mostly came when they either rode with, like, a Brunson and a more defensive group around him, or Cat in a more defensive group around him. And if your two stars and your two building blocks are like that fundamentally incompatible to me on one side of the ball, I think that you have to see that, and it's better to diagnose that quicker. And I would trade Karl-Anthony Towns for Kevin Durant straight up. I mean, if that deal is on the table, which I think is interesting for the Suns, you get a guy who fits on Book's timeline. You're not getting your own picks back, so you want to be competitive. And for the Knicks, I think KD could be a super functional part of that defense. I think that offensively, he's a level up from Cat, and I think that he's so versatile. I think that that would be incredible. So I'm at that point. I would definitely be looking to find the right Cat trade.
So Carson, really quickly to counter your point when you talked about with both of those double bigs on the lineup. Well, first of all, buckets with the Knicks are at a premium. So how do I continue to get opportunities to get buckets? Well, I need second chance opportunities, which would explain why Mitchell Robinson was on the floor as much as he was on the floor. Really quickly, fucking nerds are in the house. I'm so charged right now. I'm so juiced right now. Fucking nerds are here. Fucking love nerds. I swear I do. But anyway, if I got my double big lineup on the floor, my double big lineup is on the floor, so I can maximize my second chance opportunities because my offense is heliocentric, right? I got a guy in Jalen Brunson who dominates the basketball, and all of these guys play off of him. Jalen Brunson, who isn't exactly Damian Lillard or SGA in terms of efficiency. So and I'm also inefficient in terms of transition defense. So I need every second chance opportunity that I'm going to get. That's why Mitchell Robinson is on the floor, because I'm not going to him for buckets, as we know.
But how much worse is your transition defense, Chill, when you have Mitchell Robinson on the floor and now Cat is matched up with Pascal Siakam, and it's leak out after leak out. Like, they let up 46 transition points in Game 6, man. I just think they were too slow.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that the Knicks in this series, they got outscored in transition triple. Whatever the Knicks did, I think it was triple. Indiana did triple what they did. This goes back to the roster construction part, where I personally think, and I may be in the minority, I think Mitchell Robinson's made of glass. That's me. I don't think that he's I don't think that he's as healthy as you. He's got to get healthy. It's always been some nonsense with him, whether it's a foot injury, whether it's a knee. I don't think that he's somebody that you can depend on. I do think that he's awesome on the glass, and I do think that for what Thibs had, he needed to have him on the floor just off the strength of us having second chance opportunities to score, because in the half court, I didn't give Indiana nearly as much credit as a defense, number one. And then number two, I didn't give them as much credit as a transition offense. So Thibs is trying to figure out ways to get buckets, because buckets for this team is at a premium.
I don't disagree. I just don't think that Mitch was the answer when you consider the defensive drawbacks of having another slow-footed big, another defensive target for Indiana, another guy who's slower in rotation. So I understand the logic. I just thought that Deuce was the guy who could actually bring you some two-way value, who actually was a better defensive option in that matchup, especially if you're playing him alongside Cat. And then offensively, who could give you a little spark. And he's the one guy who I would look at and say, I wish that he played more.
Yo, Joel, Logan in the house. What's going on, y'all?
How's it going?
That was good. Cool, Joel looking a little down, man. Are you all right, bro?
No, he's not.
Allergies
He was
in
super
the-
charged about his Knicks. And he ain't happy about this at all. No.
allergies in the New Jersey area, the pollen, and the Knicks loss. Yeah, great breakdown, Carson.
Thanks, man.
I like this position in between us, man. I like this.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't know what you mean by that exactly, but I agree.
Yo, what I do want to, well, actually, before I even go anywhere, Joel, I know you are a Knicks fan. How are you feeling right now? Are you high on this? Are you low on this? Do you have mixed feelings?
The more I thought about it, the higher I am on it. It's mixed feelings because I thought Thibodeau did a lot for the Knicks. I thought he brought us back to relevancy. In the 19 years before he was the coach, he made the playoffs 4 times. In the 5 years he was the coach, we made the playoffs 4 times, and we had 4 winning seasons, Eastern Conference Finals appearance. But in looking at how this season shaped out and just removing myself from what had happened, we made the Eastern Conference Finals first time.
Joe, stop downplaying your boys. The Knicks were a dumpster fire. You guys were a joke. 5
And
straight
that's-
50-loss seasons. 5
Yes,
of them.
we were. And looking at how the season went, in the regular season, everybody thought the Knicks were the biggest pretender in the NBA. They couldn't beat any top contender. They underachieved in the regular season. They underachieved in the Pistons series. That went down to the wire in every single game. And had it not been for Jalen Brunson being the best fourth quarter performer in the playoffs, we might have lost that series, and they didn't have Jaden Ivey or Isaiah Stewart, and they took us down to the wire. The Celtics collapsed, blowing 2 20-point leads. You got to give the Knicks credit for that, but how sustainable is winning in that way? And then in the conference finals, we were outplayed. We were outcoached by the Indiana Pacers. So we're talking about in the regular season, underperforming. In the playoffs, 2 of the 3 series underperforming. Yes, the result is an Eastern Conference Finals berth and 2 wins away from the NBA Finals. But how we got here, is it a sustainable way to win? I didn't think so. And I thought that Tom Thibodeau was very rigid in the lineup that he deployed out there. Josh Hart was top 3 in minutes per game in the regular season. He in the starting lineup, they played 2,500 possessions together. That's more than the Celtics starting lineup has played together in the last 2 seasons. That's how often Josh Hart was in the lineup. And that lineup in the regular season was a negative. In the playoffs, it was a negative. And we never fully leaned into a 5-out approach with Deuce McBride in the lineup. Deuce McBride only played with the starters for 100 possessions, and he was a plus 17. It was a lineup that was exceptional. It was elite.
The whole season?
The whole season. It was exceptional. It was awesome. It should have been deployed more. But Tom Thibodeau, instead of having Deuce start over Hart, chose Mitchell Robinson, which, yeah, it made our defense balance out, but it didn't maximize our offense. And Karl Anthony Towns, one of the best big shooters in league history by statistics, he had a lower 3-point attempt rate than Julius Randle in the regular season. Julius Randle attempted more threes than Cat in the playoffs and 100 less minutes played. And I just think that fundamentally it's a misuse of Cat's skill set. And Tom Thibodeau, he has raised the floor of the Knicks. Is he somebody that's going to raise the ceiling? He's 3rd all time in 7 playoff series losses where he is a higher seeded team. I think that there's been too many failures on his resume. I thank him for what he did, but I'm ready to see a new coach in there that can have a more modern offensive philosophy and approach. The defensive drawbacks will be there as long as Brunson and Cat are the starters. I don't disagree too much with Cat being expendable this offseason, but at the same time, I would like to see one season of a coach try to maximize the offensive duo instead of leaning into familiarity. And that's what he did with Josh Hart playing so many minutes. I mean, there's no world where Josh Hart should be playing the 3rd most minutes amongst any player in the NBA. He should be in the starting lineup with Cat, Brunson, OG, and McKell for 85% of the time. it was just self-sabotage. So I look overall at this next season, while a success overall, looking from a bird's eye view, okay, is this a sustainable way of winning? I don't think so. And I'd rather take a risk for a higher ceiling than lean with familiarity with Tom Thibodeau.
Joe, when you said underperforming, like what's underperforming for this group? Like you won 51 games. What would have been suffice for you for this group? Would it have been 55 games, but the offense is better? That's the first part of my question. And the second part of my question is, was this Detroit team better than what we thought they were?
It would have been,
and that was a better matchup than you thought it was.
Detroit is a great team. That's number one. I think what would have been successful for me would have just been more experimentation. In the Pacers series, game 6, I mean, I think game 5 is when he realized that, oh yeah, Landry Shamet makes more sense to play than Cameron Payne. And we had the entire regular season to figure out what the rotation should be, what the bench should be, what the lineup should be, who should be playing when. He had the entire regular season to experiment with that, but he only tapped into it when our backs were against the wall against Indiana down 0-2. And that's when he finally leaned into the bench. So for me, it's not playing the starters as heavy of minutes as he played them in the regular season, playing the correct lineups. Josh Hart, he was a negative in the lineup all year long, and he continued to play it in the playoffs as well.
The whole season?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, overall for the entirety of the season, the Knicks that starting lineup was a minus 1.7 points per 100 possessions. It was a negative. So that's how I would have approached it, and I would have thought it was better. And also just beating those teams that we needed to beat in the regular season. Yeah, we beat the Celtics in the playoffs, but we looked awful against every contender in the regular season. So Tom Thibodeau, yeah, like
game.
51 wins.
Cleveland, Oklahoma City.
Yep.
You didn't win a game against those guys.
Yep. Most wins since 2012, 2013. But overall, I don't know if he's the coach that can lead a team to a championship. So that's why I think the Knicks made this decision.
I just find it hard. Like, you go back-to-back 50-win seasons. And I understand if you just are incompetent. Okay, I get that. But you go back-to-back 50-win seasons, Logan. You go to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since Patrick Ewing?
2000.
Like, how?
Ewing was over, by the way.
It's just the coaching culture in the NBA is extremely toxic, I believe. Chill. Sure. She comes into my life. She upgrades my life. I had a 500 credit score. She takes me up to a 750. I didn't have a car. Now I'm driving not just a cool car. I'm driving a fly ass Benz. I've upped everything. My life looks better. It feels better. It is better. And I let her go because I think I can go to another level.
Maybe she the bridge chick, Ron. Maybe
she had a busted hairline, guys.
Maybe. I'm not on the fence about that. I'm like,
before was his style.
It's time to get rid. It's time to let that go. Tibbs definitely is time to let that go. But to your point, Ron, maybe she was the bridge chick. Maybe like you was in a bunch of bad relationships, and now you get into this relationship and it's really good, but maybe she ain't the one that you want to marry. But
yeah, but chill.
But you ain't ready to break up with her yet neither. Like you ain't breaking up with her quick. Like you're gonna hang around her and you're gonna get everything together. And then once you get it together, all right, now I'm out.
Chill.
Now I'm ready
do I have it together? Remember you asked me yesterday, Ron, are you a degenerate? I got ways that if I bring another chick in here and she mismanages me, I could go back to.
But you ain't close to what you were. You're not close to that.
But I can always go back to who I was, though.
You can, no doubt, and that's why bringing in somebody new, bringing in somebody different, you're not going back to those ways. And the reason why you're not going back to those ways is because the new chick that come in, she's an upgrade from the chick that got you to where you are.
Is she?
You ain't going back to that. No, you're not going back to that. Because if we go back to because here's the problem, Ron. If we go back to you rotating chicks. Yes, which was what the Knicks were doing. But they had 5 coaches in 5 different years, if I'm not mistaken. Like it was basically a revolving door of Derek Fisher and Jeff Hornacek, and I mean, I could keep going with this. Yes, I could keep going. So of course, Ron, you're gonna be out till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning because ain't no structure in your house, right? Of course, you're gonna be missing for 2 or 3 days because ain't nobody monitoring you. However, when now
I'm getting goosebumps right now.
But now when you get with Tibbs. All right, so it's a reason to come home. There's a reason to stay home because the food is better. And now you ain't going back to rotating chicks again. Well, I think the Knicks management recognizes that we can't go back to that, right? We have to get something solid because we're already in a space where we're close, right? We're already in a space where we're close to winning this thing. We can't go back to firing a coach in the middle of the season or getting a guy and we only got him in here for a year because we're going to go right back to where we were previous to that.
So, Mars and Logan, I haven't too much heard from you guys today. I'm going to put this graphic on the screen, and you guys basically tell me thumbs up or thumbs down, yes or no, whether this is a good coaching candidate for the Knicks. Joel, I know you have a say in this, so feel free to chime in as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yahoo Sports gave us 10 candidates. Obviously, there's a million more, but these are the 10 that they threw out there. I want to know how you guys feel about this. First up, Mike Malone. You knew this was coming. Mars,
Damn, I'm kind of indifferent to Mike Malone. I don't know. Like, I think Mike Malone was a good coach in Denver, but like,
he raged Joker.
the Knicks needs, in my opinion, I think the most important thing that the Knicks need to get with their hire is like someone who can give, because I kind of agree that it's hard to upgrade with the current personnel that you got. I think they need somebody that's going to light a fire under Cat's ass and get him to play defense. Like, I don't know. I think they need somebody tough.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I know, right? Like it's like maybe
a psychologist, like
maybe a magical fairy. Like if we rub a lamp, a genie will come out and then he'll go ding, and then Cat will be a good defender. I don't know. I never really liked Mike Malone as like Mike Malone's an alright coach. I think they can do better, honestly, though.
Logan, what's the separation between Mike Malone and Thibs?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know if there's a ton of difference. I think Malone's a little more flexible, but like I want a guy who's X's and O's, who comes up with like a good scheme and game plans. And like I know Malone's not dumb or anything. I just feel like Jokic may have inflated how much people think like how great a coach he really is. So I don't know. I think they can do better.
Mars, am I ridiculous in thinking? Am I ridiculous in thinking with football? Because the way we are today in pro basketball, the advanced offenses, the advanced defenses. Am I ridiculous in thinking that we can move into a space where I have an offensive coordinator, where I have a defensive coordinator, where I have somebody that runs my offense, where I have somebody who runs my defense, as opposed to me just doing all of this stuff? I'm responsible for rotations. I'm responsible for play calling. I'm responsible for all of this stuff. Am I ridiculous in thinking that maybe I can hire somebody? And before you answer that, Moss, which is why I was thinking maybe it wasn't a good idea to get off of Thibs just yet.
I don't know anything about football.
So
Ask the question again.
So in pro football, Mars, you got, like you saw with the quarterback, you got a guy who's in charge of the offense.
Okay.
And in pro football, you also got a guy who's in charge of the defense. He doesn't touch the offense.
Okay.
He doesn't touch the offense. Then you got the head coach. He manages all of this stuff because of how complex it is. Well, I feel like where we are in pro basketball today with the advancement of the offense, how much more complex it is it ridiculous for me to think that I could hire an offensive coordinator and I can hire a defensive coordinator, a guy that's just responsible, kind of like what Thibs was doing when he was
I thought that's what was already happening. I just didn't know if they had labels. But I figured that's what, like, the assistants were. I figured, like, on the Lakers coaching staff, Nate McMillan was responsible for the defense, and like Scott Brooks or whoever was responsible for offense, and JJ Redick was just not the figurehead, but he's the one above both of them. I thought that's what was happening. Just maybe they don't get given the title of offensive coordinator. But I don't know. I'm not on the bench.
The Grizzlies assistant coach, I think they were running his scheme. And then it's like, okay, you move on from Taylor Jenkins, and he's still been implementing the same scheme throughout the entire season. Now he's just the head coach. So I thought like assistant coaches were just like that type of guy.
I don't know. I always say I don't know what these coaches actually do. So I always struggle with,
because you got like 8 or 9 of them over there.
Yeah, so like we give the head coach a lot of credit or blame when things go wrong, but like maybe the things we're blaming them for, they're not even responsible for. So like I don't know. In terms of Michael Malone, I don't know. I guess, I mean, he can get Cat to average close to a triple-double. That would be cool.
All right, the next guy I got for you guys, Villanova guy, to pair up with the Villanova guys. Jay Wright, Remember, he's not coaching in Villanova right now, so he is currently a free man.
Ron, if we're doing that, then we got to go get Dan Hurley. If we're doing that. If we're going after Jay Wright, then if you're going after a coach who was just in college, then we got to go after Dan Hurley, because I think Dan Hurley, I think his offense, I think it's as modern as it gets. He runs a pro-style offense in college where it's almost impossible to cover. He just didn't have the personnel last season at UConn. He didn't have a go-get-it guy. He didn't have a guy who can just get off the dribble. I'm a little bit partial, John D. I watch college basketball, but I'm a little biased when it comes to UConn. I grew up with Dan Hurley, so I do watch a lot of UConn basketball. He didn't have a guy who was a go-get-it guy off the dribble. That was the difference. But in terms of his offense, he ran a lot of action, a lot of split action, a lot of double drag, a lot of slip, a lot of stuff that's almost unguardable. Could he take that offense to the NBA? I think it would work. I think the problem is trusting a college coach. I think that's the biggest issue that I have when it comes to a guy coming from college, especially on that kind of team, Joel. Like, he's not coaching the Trailblazers, right? He's not coaching Utah, where there's a bunch of young guys with a development. This Knicks team is at the doorstep. Like, why the hell are we listening to you?
But what about just his personality too, Chill? Because Dan Hurley gets on his players in a way that you don't see in the NBA. He's like
gonna make Cat cry in that way. Yeah, he's gonna make Cat cry.
A lot of NBA players may not be ready for that. He's going to come into a system. It doesn't matter where he goes. It's like some NBA players just aren't willing to take that from a coach. It's like, look, bro, you're just here. Like, if anything, if depending on where I am on the team, if I don't like you, you're gone. Like, if he gets into it with Brunson, you think they're going to move off of Brunson? Like, so I think that's one of the main issues with bringing Hurley in. And I think the same situation happened with the Lakers. Like, the Lakers are one of the biggest markets in basketball. Same could be said with the Knicks. There's a lot of pressure that comes with that. As soon as you walk in, you're in a situation where I just won 2 championships back to back. I got a really good team that can bring in talent every single season. Why would I want to move up? Why would I want to move up?
I want to, but Chill, what you guys highlighted about just kind of the NBA personalities, and obviously it's a different ball game. It's grown men. You have to coach them differently. But maybe that's why Jay Wright may be a good fit. He knows Josh Hart. He knows Mikal Bridges. He knows Jalen Brunson. He raised these guys. So maybe he'll be able to resonate to them in a way that somebody else can't. Now, obviously, you got other guys. You got Mitchell Robinson. You got Karl Anthony Towns. You got OG Anunoby. He still has to connect with these guys, too. But he already has that connection with the foundation of this team.
With that being said, though, Ron, it's different raising your son and then talking to him when he's 25 as opposed to when he's 12. And that's basically who Jay Wright, he had him as kids. Okay, he's transitioning to, $50 and $60 million players. These guys think different. These guys play different. Their attitude is different. This isn't college anymore. We don't have off-campus apartments. I'm married and I got kids. I got a family. So there's a way that, I feel like Jay Wright, I'm not saying that the game is passed them by. I'm not insinuating that at all. What I am saying though is it's a different level when you get to the pros. And guys that I coached in college, I can't coach them the way I did on the pro level for the money, for the kind of player that they are at this point, and for where they are in their career. So I think it's a little bit different.
All right, I'm gonna throw these coaches back up here. Joe, you just chime in whenever we find the guy that you would like. All right, Mike Brown. How we feeling about Mike Brown?
Next.
Okay. Johnny Bryant.
I like it. I like this one.
You like it?
This is my pick.
Who's Johnny Bryant coach? I'm sorry.
He was the assistant for the Cavaliers.
Okay.
This past season, and then before that, for like the previous 4 or 5 years, he was the assistant with the Knicks. The Knicks have been very high on him since like 2022. They're very high on him. Mm-hmm. The only hurdle is that Thibs was the coach, but he's one of 2 final candidates for the Suns head coaching job. Him and Jordan Ott, who's another assistant for the Cavaliers. I like Johnny Bryant. I think he is young. He has a sound offensive philosophy. He definitely contributed to what the Cavaliers did last year. It's just about, are you moving on from Thibs for a rookie head coach? I think from a PR perspective, it's very hard to spin that and have anybody outside of the fan base be positive about it. I know within the fan base, this is who Knicks fans want to be the next head coach.
Okay. Well, keep an eye on Johnny Bryan and more so who the Suns.
Did you have him on your staff, Joe?
Yes. Before this season.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Next up in the list that they've given us, we have Taylor Jenkins. Thoughts on Taylor? Yes, no, maybe.
I'm
Next.
partial to this. It's in the same Mike Malone boat, in my opinion, to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, this would be a very different job for Taylor Jenkins, just because like so much of what you think that he did well with Memphis was like getting a young team to really play hard, sort of maximizing their defensive level. Obviously, just the entire development of a young core in Memphis was really impressive, and just a very different team identity, playing fast. So it's tough for me to say without having seen him like coach in multiple spots as the head guy, how good of a fit he would be. But I do think that Taylor Jenkins is a pretty good NBA coach and he has the experience. So I don't think that that would be bad.
All right. It's a ton of other coaches on this list. So I'm going to just list off some names and you guys can stop me if you find a guy that you guys think is good, or if you just want to comment on how terrible of a fit it would be. Mike Budenholzer.
I'm good.
I'm out on Coach Bud.
Frank Vogel.
I'm good.
Yo, what's your problem? Whoa, Ron. What's the problem with Frank? Hold on. What I don't understand what the problem is with Frank. Is this a lateral move, Joe? Is this
2014? I'm all over this, man. 10 years ago, yeah, let's go.
Frank does have a lot of Thibs vibes. I think that they're like similar personalities, obviously defensive-minded guys. I think he's a good defensive coach. I don't think he's a miracle worker, though.
Do they need a miracle in New York, though?
I think defensively, I think they do need a miracle.
I think they need a drill sergeant for Cat.
I need an offensive
coach. Now, wait a minute, because remember, I mean that Orlando team that he coached, they were a joke, but he had them as one of the better defensive teams in the game
for sure.
That Laker team, we don't know. And for you guys out there that's saying you did not know who Alex Caruso was back then. No, you didn't. You're lying. So this Laker team, they were one of the better defensive teams in the game, and I think that was. I mean, we already know who Anthony Davis is as a defender. James was on the other side of who he used to be as a defender. But Frank Vogel had this team really good as a defensive team. So
we had a way better personnel though than the defensively than the Knicks have now. Like we had Caruso, KCP, Kuzma was given effort. We had
Avery Bradley too in the regular season.
Avery Bradley, Rajon Rondo. We had a decent center rotation that could play next to AD. We had a really good personnel for Frank Vogel to use these guys. And what the difference is, we're not saying Frank Vogel can't coach a good defense. It's just you're going to have to come up with the scheme for this Knicks team to be a way better defense with the personnel that they have. And I think that's a lot tougher than to just come into a Lakers team that had the personnel for them to be a top 5 defense or whatever they were that year.
Now, I'm not saying that I'm not insinuating that LeBron James and Jalen Brunson are the same. I'm not even especially in 2019, 2020 season. However, I am thinking about a guy who dominated the basketball, what James did. I'm also thinking about a guy in Brunson who dominated the basketball, but the offense was pretty similar. Now, you got a playmaker in Jalen Brunson, who isn't James. You know what? I'm going to get off this because this isn't going anywhere.
We understand where you're going. Like, it could be a watered-down version. Like, Jalen Brunson isn't LeBron, but he has the ball in his hands a majority of the game. Karl Anthony Towns isn't AD, but
no, that's kind of where I am.
Man who can score.
I think the separation between Jalen Brunson and James, in terms of a playmaker, in terms of, I mean, James led the league in assists that year. So if he's leading the league in assists, he's doing so much more with the ball, and the ball's not just sticking to his hands. There's so much more going on. And I'd like to think that Frank Vogel wasn't just standing on the sideline with his arms folded going, okay, roll the balls out. And he was calling plays. He was calling action. That was going on.
I'm just very hesitant to give the reins to a coach who won with all-time players. Like Frank Vogel won with LeBron James. Mike Budenholzer won with Giannis. Mike Malone won with Jokic. It is hard to underestimate how much those guys carry a load in runs like that, and to give your keys to the franchise after firing Thibs to a Mike Malone, to a Vogel, to a Budenholzer, I think it is very risky because you don't have that all-time talent on the Knicks. Brunson is incredible, but He's not Giannis, Jokic, LeBron, and it's easier to win when you have those guys on your team.
All right, the next guy I got up for you guys is Sam Cassell.
I'm not too familiar. I mean, I know he's been around. He's a good assistant coach. I'd rather go with Johnny Bryant.
Some guys.
Why is that, Joel? I'm just curious because I'm hearing all this Johnny Bryant hype, and I get it. He was part of a great staff. He has a Knicks history, but like, has Sam Cassell not been considered the premier assistant in the NBA for like a better part of a decade now? And Johnny Bryant is much newer to the game. So why do you feel so differently about them as candidates?
And on top of that, Joe, before you answer that, Sam Cassell is giving me North Turner vibes. Like he's an awesome assistant, but when you put him in, when you actually put him
North Turner is a great pull, Joe. I ain't thought about North Turner in a minute.
North Turner was he turned Alex Smith best season.
Great running backs coach, man. The GOAT running backs coach.
North Turner's his best season as an offensive coordinator. Alex Smith, his best season was with North Turner as the offensive coordinator, the best. And Sam Cassell, for some reason, I'm not saying that he's not a player's coach, Joe, because I want you to continue. I'm not saying he's a player's coach, but for some reason, he kind of gives me this really good assistant vibe.
I feel like he would have got hired by now. That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like he's been through this process for years now and he hasn't got hired yet. Maybe he's waiting for the right ideal situation. That could always be true. I wouldn't be mad at it though. I'd prefer more of these type of moves where Knicks feel like they're going more out on a limb instead of going with a coach who's won elsewhere. And it's like, okay, you could win here if you want there. I'd rather just more open mind of thinking.
All right, well, speaking of going out on a limb, I got a few more, and I'm going to put these guys on the screen because it is going out on a limb. Now, this guy has been there before, but it's still kind of going out on a limb.
No.
Jeff Van Gundy?
No.
No love for Van Gundy?
He turned around the Clippers defense this past season.
Yes, he did.
He's a great defensive coach.
If Tibbs can't turn around your defense, don't forget who Tibbs is. Jeff Van Gundy ain't coming in and turning your defense around. If Tibbs can't do it. Hell no.
Yeah, I'm pretty much good on this.
All right, next. John Calipari.
Absolutely not.
No?
Absolutely.
There's some guys
not.
that are college coaches, and there's some guys that can transition into the pro game. I think John Calipari, I think he's a college coach. I don't think he's a pro. I think he's the guy that's getting guys ready to be pro players. And I think college is his best space. I mean, he has Sam Cassell. He wanted Sam Cassell diving on the floor for loose balls in the preseason. Are we really doing that with the Knicks? No.
All right, well, if Jeff Van Gundy or John Calipari can't get it done, surely this guy right here can get it done. The Godfather, Rick Pitino.
You do know that he's around the same age as not me, Mars, but he's around the same. Rick Pitino's around the same age as Greg Popovich.
No, I thought he was gonna say Hubie Brown. No.
No, he's not that old.
Innovative coach for the Knicks in the mid-late 80s as an assistant and the head coach, ahead of his time with 3-point volume. So, he was ahead of his time 35 years ago.
Shout out to Pitino, man, one of my favorite coaches. And last but not least, I guess if those guys can't get it done, then our last option,
Chris Paul,
is close. They have the same head shape. Meta world peace.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I don't know, man. We got to make it happen for New York. But
maybe he can coach.
Before we do move on, I do just want to put the betting odds of who the coaches or who the media thinks that the next head coach for the Knicks would be.
I heard Stephen A was in the list.
You did not hear that.
I saw it. I was scrolling through Twitter. Stephen A got some odds. I might put 10 on it.
You're gonna lose your 10 fast.
Yeah.
Here's what we looking at, y'all. So apparently Mike Malone, Dan Hurley, and Johnny Bryant are the top 3 candidates to become the next New York Knicks head coach.
I might put 10 on that Johnny Bryant one though, for real.
Do y'all see the name at the bottom?
Rick Brunson.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any shot? Any chance?
No.
I don't think so. I think that this is interesting timing from the Knicks to fire Thibs because Johnny Bryant is in his last string of interviews with the Suns for their head coaching job, and it's between him and Jordan Ott. So I think them firing Thibs right before he could potentially make a decision to coach another team is interesting timing.
I mean, when were they supposed to do it?
Firing Thibs?
Yeah.
Wait on it a little bit more. I don't think it had to be as immediate, but then again, maybe it did.
Joel, have you been wearing that shirt for the last month and a half? I thought maybe you would stop now that the playoffs are over.
I watched it yesterday. Yesterday I watched it. I haven't worn it in like a week and a half.
Okay. I don't believe you, but I'll take your word, I guess.
I wish I can make you smell it through the screen.
No, I'm good, thank you. There's still some throw up lingering on that. I know that.
I didn't.
Carson, I'm glad you brought that up because there was a wager that was made, and it was right around the time that let me go ahead and put this on the screen that this happened. Y'all remember? You guys don't really think the Knicks can get with the Pacers, though, right?
Well, they can absolutely get with the Pacers.
Joel,
I'm shocked that y'all
take your fan hat off, Joel. I need you to even take that shirt off. Maybe not right now, but take that shirt off and come to reality.
Hold on.
Really think that's the Knicks can get with the Pacers?
Ox got the Knicks serving these dudes.
I'm shocked. That's what I want to know. I came up here like, what are y'all talking about? The Pacers
Ox got the Knicks serving these dudes. What am I missing?
This team is good because this team isn't what y'all think they are. First of all, y'all talking about their defense. Like they haven't played against this level of defense that the Knicks are going to play with in these playoffs at all. Like y'all are hyped by this Pacers team.
They're better than them defensively.
They're going
better than the Knicks.
No, not this. No, you're talking about what Cleveland was and has been throughout the regular season. I'm talking about what they faced in the playoffs. Like we can't keep talking about they averaged this in the regular season or they did this. They had this rate in the regular season. That wasn't the same team. Everybody was hurt. This Pacers team. This is the second time they've been to the Eastern Conference Finals. They haven't beat one healthy team on the road to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Here we go. You want to discredit my guy Hallie? Now, around that time, Joel, we made an agreement, right?
We did.
You mind informing the people what that agreement was?
The agreement was that if the Pacers won, Ron would send me some Pacers merchandise to wear, to represent, to show some respect.
Yes.
To show some validity for what the Indiana Pacers have done in making the NBA Finals. So, with that being said, I haven't ordered your merch yet. I was waiting for today.
Go Ron.
And so you know what we're gonna do? I'm just gonna show the people what I'm gonna order you. Yes, we're gonna do just a little retail therapy. That should make you feel better, right? Yeah, at first I told them because when we went down 0-2, I texted them. I said you could send the merch already. You could send it on its way. And I told them, yo, give me this one. And it was like a Halliburton shirt.
I was going to say, Joel is a sneaky Hallie Glazer. He probably wants a big Hallie face on his chest.
Well, I think we can do better. Let me show you what I got in mind for you. This is
wow. Okay, this is what we're on today. Okay,
I knew we was going to.
This is my shopping cart.
My bad. I knew we was going.
My bad. Hold on. Let me get this off the screen.
I knew we was going here, yo.
Nah, I'm tripping. My bad.
Wow.
Right here. This is what I'm thinking. Since you and your boys is in Cancun, I think this will fit in perfectly with what you got going on. Right here.
Oh, that's funny.
That's nice.
And the weather getting warm up in Jersey too, by the way. So.
That's good stuff.
Can he get both?
Yeah.
Can he get what was in your cart, Ron, and this?
Yeah, this might work. With the spandex?
With the
spandex.
I mean, what about these?
Oh, those look good. I like that
one
trunk
all the way
set.
to the right might be
right here. You like this one, John D?
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
That's nice.
Tropical.
Save 5% too. If you guys want a Hawaiian shirt for your favorite team while you're in Cancun, go to Hype Favo. But yeah,
now we need that sponsor.
Are we settling on this one?
I like that one more. I like that one more.
I want Logan to.
Dude, I think we got to get Joel to full matching set, man. I think you're gonna be at the beach looking fresh
in the Pacers gear.
Hold on, so are we doing these and these? Are we doing this and this?
I like the black on black.
My shit too. You ain't gonna get it for another 6 months.
Well, the dark blue on dark blue, I should say.
Dark blue and dark blue. So this,
yeah, that's pretty tough.
Yeah,
this bad boy or this bad boy.
That look like Joe. That look like you right there.
Nah. What do you mean? I'm not Cuban.
100%. That 100% look like you, Joe. That look like something that you would rock.
No, it would not be.
100%. That's you. That's you with the trunks, Joe. I can see you.
I like
I can see
that
you sipping
one.
a pina colada right
I
there.
like
I
that
can see
one.
that.
That one is the best. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we going with this one.
Yeah, I like that one with the dark blue shorts.
Let's check the shipping info. What can we do? 7 to 14 days. Damn, we don't got an overnight.
The Pacers draws is actually crazy. I've never seen that before.
That was tough. I'm getting some of those.
Yeah, we might have to choose a different option because that might take too long, but we'll settle that elsewhere. But aside from the draws, you will be getting something else. So we'll make it happen. But funny thing is, speaking of Cancun, y'all, the Knicks aren't the only team that have decisions that they have to make. And we'll get to the finals. We'll get everybody's predictions. We'll talk about all of that good stuff, talk about all the details. But I do want to talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves. We have yet to really discuss what is next for them, what they need to do, what they have to do. Before we get into that, though, y'all, make sure you turn on your notification bells, like the video, subscribe, and download the PrizePicks app. Because over there, well, you'll get $50 back instantly when you play just $5. See, the cool thing about PrizePicks is it allows you to run your game, control your game, and win your game. And it will give you player projections every day. And with those player projections, it's very simple. You choose more or less on the player you like, in the sport you like, with the exact statistical category that you like. So one more time, make sure you download the PrizePicks app, use promo code PANEL, and get your $50 instantly in promo funds. Also, it is the NBA Finals. And, well, there's going to be hard to get playoff seats. And you'll probably be outside of the arena. Like, you remember how all those New York Knicks fans were outside of the Madison Square Garden cheering at the top of their lungs? Well, you don't want to be those fans. You want to be the fans that are actually in the arena. So download the Gametime app because, well, it just makes getting tickets faster and easier, even for those hard-to-get playoff seats. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. They have killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats before you even purchase them, and they have the lowest prices guaranteed. Gametime just takes the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets, so you take the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets and download the Gametime app. Create an account, use promo code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but who cares? Download the app, use promo code CLNS, get $20 off your purchase, and download the Gametime app today to get last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed, and we'll see you in the game. All right, fellas, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Mars, what do you think that they need to do next to ensure that they have a better season next year?
Blow up OKC. I don't think there's any moves they make that puts them over the top of them. So they're probably going to be fighting to be the second best team in the conference, and then just hope that they can get some fortunate pathway to make it to the finals or whatever is deemed as more of a success. In terms of personnel, I'd be looking to upgrade at the point guard position. I think Mike Conley, Father Time, has caught up. I mean, he's like 37, 38, so it's not like a knock on him. I think the Julius Randle stuff looked a lot better as the season went on. Now, that doesn't mean I'd extend him for like a max or whatever, but I mean, we'll look into it, see what the asking price is, what he's asking for, not trading him. Then internal development from Ant, like that's the next step. Him improving his intermediate game, maybe getting in the post some more floaters, that type of stuff. That's the next step for him. And then you just kind of just go run it back. Like I don't think they're in a position where you just got to blow up the whole team and you're not going to have a chance. I think they're in a good spot.
From a money standpoint, Mars. So Nas Reed's got a player option at the end of the season. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he comes off the books at the end of the season. Mike Conley, as you said, he's a little long in the tooth. He's got one more year left on his deal. let's see. I want to make sure that I don't leave anybody out.
Randall has a player option.
Randall, that's what I was thinking about. So Julius Randall. So you got 4 guys that's in your core that have player options. Now, to your point, Mars, I'm thinking 3 years at 140 for Randall. I think that's a fair deal. Yeah, I think that's a fair deal. Yeah,
NBA money's got ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm thinking 4 years.
I mean, I feel like, not to cut you off, too. I feel like that's teetering on like, fuck it, I'm gonna let Randall walk. I don't know, man. I feel like
that's almost $50 million a year.
I feel like there has to be a dollar amount where you go, this asset is not worth that price, and I feel like that contract value is kind of teetering on it.
But this is what I'm thinking. Okay, so this is what I'm thinking.
What would you pay?
And I'm talking from an agent.
That's Anthony Edwards money. That's what he's getting.
And now listen, now really quickly, Mars. Again, this is the asking price. Is this what we're gonna get? No, but this is the asking price. Maybe we could get that number to 4 years at 130 or 125. We can do something like that. But I'm going in and I'm asking for 150. I'm asking for 4 years.
Well, you have to. Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, I'm asking
your
for
job
150.
as a representative.
I mean,
what would you pay him though?
I think the $30 million price tag he's on right now is about what I'd try to re-up him at. If he goes over. If I'm going over 35 a year average value, I'm really thinking about just saying, all right, Julius, we'll figure it out.
I'm telling you right now, Carson, I'm not letting anybody walk out the front door. I'm not letting Nas walk out the front door. I'm not letting Julius walk out the front door.
I mean, somebody's going to.
I highly doubt you can even afford to keep Nas Reed.
I think they're going to have to lose Nikhil. I think Nikhil's probably the odd man out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nikhil's probably guaranteed to be on, but I don't expect Nas Reed to be on the Timberwolves next year.
Nikhil look real good.
You can't let Nas Reed walk, man. There's gonna be riots.
If they lose Nikhil and Nas, like they get significantly worse.
But the thing is, like,
opinion.
the difference with like the Timberwolves is just Ant's 23 years old. Like, I think that's the difference between like having a 23-year-old star who's leading you to conference finals back-to-back years. It's like you trade Karl Anthony Towns so you can have a little bit more financial freedom. Julius Randle has the best playoff run he's had in his career. And now it's like, if you're going to pay him that money, you just I'm not going to say you traded Karl Anthony Towns for no reason, but it's like you're now back in that position because you're going to want to keep Nas Reed. You're going to want to keep Julius Randle. And this team's just going to get really expensive. And if you have a young player in Anthony Edwards and you have Jaden McDaniels next to him who's getting better by the year, why not just be like, okay, we're going to improve these two guys. We're going to build around the margins. Maybe we don't make the Western Conference Finals next season, but building and then Anthony Edwards, his like path to development, it's clear. Like there's a few players in the NBA where you see what you have to do to become what we need you to become. And it's like Anthony Edwards is right there. So it's like having a 23-year-old player, you develop him, you don't give that money to Julius Randle because there's still pathways to where Julius Randle might not be as good as he was this past playoff run. Julius Randle might not be the player we need him to be at $47 million. Like if it gets to that point, it's like we're just going to move on and we're going to develop our future top 3 to 5 player, and sooner or later we're going to.
So if we could keep Jules at a reasonable number, let's say I think this season coming up, he's got a player up at 32. Let's say we went to 35, right? Let's say we went to 35. That may be reasonable. I think you got your lead guard. Invest in him and get him better, because I don't think that there's a quick fix at the lead guard spot in the NBA right now that you're going to bring in. First of all, I don't know what his health situation is. That's number one. I don't know what his health situation is. Number two, this kid Dillingham, we've seen guys make jumps from one year to the next. And there's a reason why you drafted him in the space that you drafted him in, and demand that he get better and demand that he improve. So you got him. I know that you maybe Alexander Walker. I'm not looking for a team discount. I'm not saying that because I'm not trying to hear the idea of these guys letting guys off the hook because winning is expensive in the NBA. That's just the way it is. With that being said, I'm not interested in Nas Reed walking out the front door. I need to know what it's going to take to keep him here, because I damn sure ain't losing him to Houston. I can tell you that right now.
I
Hell
don't
no.
think
He's
Houston would be looking at him, but like a team
or the Lakers or some shit like that. No,
They
he's not
can't
walking out
afford
the
him.
front door and
But-
ending up in Los
a
Angeles.
team
It's
will
another
offer
Timberwolves
a
I'm
team
worried
will
about.
offer Nas Reed a healthy contract that the Timberwolves probably can't afford.
He's
So-
restricted.
He got a
No.
player option that he could opt
yeah,
in or
no.
out of, but the Timberwolves can
Oh, he is
offer
out.
him up to $23 million per season. The only team right now in free agency that has cap space are the Brooklyn Nets and the Pistons. Anybody else doesn't have cap space, and if the Brooklyn Nets want to
The
compete,
Pistons actually make sense.
Hey,
I
Reading
love
Detroit,
that.
come
I love
on,
that.
hey,
but I think
Nas in Detroit.
I think
What?
those are the only two teams that have cap space, and the Pistons, I think it's like 18 million. It's not enough to get a big time free agent. It's enough to sign back players that are leaving for them, like Malik Beasley. Is he going to come back to Detroit? He was very valuable for them last year.
Yep.
And that's about it. But I would be shocked if Minnesota doesn't keep at least two of these three. I think it'll be Randall and Reed. The good thing about it is that Alexander Walker, they have his bird rights, so they could sign and trade him. And that's why I think the Timberwolves are in a great position this offseason, because they clearly traded Cat to pivot and to have financial flexibility. And that's exactly what they have. They have options, and that's what they weren't going to have if they had Cat on this roster still. They can sign and trade Randall. They can keep him. They can sign and trade Nas Reed. They can keep him. They can sign and trade Nah. They can keep him as well. And I think every single avenue for them, it makes sense. Like if they run it back next year, I don't think it'd be the worst decision in the world if they make a small move to go get a point guard that can help out with the defense to be more a contributor. Even if they go out and trade for Kevin Durant, depending on the asking price for it, I think it would make sense for them. And I think they're just in a place where options are at an abundance, and I don't think any move they particularly make would be a wrong one.
Now, walk with me real quick. Now, the Minnesota Timberwolves have the 17th pick, and they have the 17th pick in the draft. They have the 17th pick in the draft. You can go get some shooters. You can go get a guy that can shoot the basketball at 17. There's a couple of guys that I got my eyes on for the Minnesota Timberwolves at 17, but there's also a lead guard in Orlando that's coming off the bench and might not be a starter because Jalen Suggs is just an all-NBA caliber defender now. I think Anthony Black, we got a shooter at the 2-guard position in Dante DiVincenzo. You guys take him. You guys give us Anthony Black. He stands at 6'6", 6'7", can play make, can run the floor, can defend. I don't hate that if I'm the Minnesota Timberwolves. You get a guy with some
You
size.
got to throw more in than Dante DiVincenzo, though.
That's why we got the 17th pick.
Why are they giving
I
up
don't think
even?
that gets it done either.
Yeah, I don't
And
know why
Anthony
you're
Black's
giving
the
up
point guard of the
DiVincenzo.
future.
When you look at at least what I did was I looked at teams that need shooting at that 2-guard position.
Mhm.
The Orlando Magic may be a team that's like, you know what? We desperately need some shooting around Paolo and Franz. We have Dante. We also have a 17th. We need a point guard that has the size, that has the playmaking, the ball handling, the pace, the all-around game. I think making a deal for Anthony Black or even Lonzo Ball, because we spoke about this the other day, I think that's a good move. I don't
hate DiVincenzo in Orlando. He doesn't take away from their defense. He actually adds to their defense. He does give them a floor spacer. He gives them a veteran presence. He gives them experience. I don't hate it. I don't know if that'd be enough to acquire Anthony Black.
Ron, how about I give Anthony Black the ball and move Jalen Suggs to the 2? How about I do that instead of handing my future point guard over to somebody else and he turn into an all-star in Minnesota? Hell
I
no.
also think it's so weird when we talk about the Timberwolves because Ant is 23. So we're like simultaneously trying to find who is this long-term, maybe like high upside, but at this point kind of unknown point guard, if it's Anthony Black, if it's Rob Dillingham. And then we're also talking about this is a team that's been to back-to-back Western Conference Finals, that has a 33-year-old Rudy Gobert, that has a 30-year-old Julius Randle who they have to decide to pay or not pay, and I presume they will pay this offseason. Like, I don't know if Anthony Black is the guy who you're looking at and saying, hey, step in and fill this role that we need as the starting point guard for us right now when we're trying to contend. I don't think that Rob Dillingham is that guy either. That's why, even though it is weird because you don't want to compromise your future by going too all in on this current timeline. Like, in my eyes, the Timberwolves are already in on this timeline. Like, they are trying to contend now. And that's why I would be aggressive. I mean, Joel, you mentioned the KD trade and Chill put his head in his hands, but I think that would be a good move. I think that KD immediately takes them up another level and doesn't make them a favorite over OKC, but gives them an infinitely better chance of actually beating the healthy Thunder.
That reason right there, Carson, that's why you're doing it, to get over the OKC hump.
And I'm saying that's the only way you have a chance. And I get it if you're like, okay, well, we just want to prioritize our long-term timeline, but OKC is not going anywhere. OKC is just getting better and better. That mountain is only going to get harder to climb. So if you have a chance to like give them a legitimate shot, give them a punch that nobody else can, I would not be opposed to doing that right now.
Which is fair, which is a fair statement if the question is asked, like I asked you, Carson, how far do you think Dillingham is away from being viable? How far do you think he's away from really contributing to this unit as a starting league guard? I ain't talking about a rotation guard, as a starting league guard. Because, again, I want to make sure that we're clear on what Oklahoma City did. 3 years ago, did anybody have Oklahoma City as a 68-win NBA championship level team? I know I did.
Once they got Chet.
Now, when they got Chet, I thought they were going to be much better. I'm not going to argue that point. But how far away, when you're looking at this Minnesota team, how far away is Rob Dillingham from being a major contributor on this team in your estimation? Because if he's
far, in my opinion,
if he's 2-3 years away, and you feel like KD is going to help you right now, and he's going to be the reason why, because I don't think KD is going to be enough. I think that you got to make another move to get over the hump.
Chill. You replace KD and Julius Randle. What does the OKC series look like?
I think it looks a lot different because you got a bucket getter, right? And in addition to getting a bucket getter, I mean, he helps Anthony Edwards out a lot off the basketball, no doubt about that. But with that being said, I mean, Oklahoma City, are they better than Oklahoma City with him on the crew?
No, but they're so much closer. Like, what's the path? What's the path to them getting better now or long-term, Jill? OKC is going to be a dynasty. This is one of the most talented cores we got young pieces. You don't just give up.
No doubt about that, but we got young pieces here. So if we get KD, what is KD in terms of KD is a short-term guy. We ain't going to have KD for 3 or 4 years, right? So if we're only going to have KD for a year, maybe 2, do I invest more in Rob Dillingham? Do I invest more in these young guys to get closer? Very much like what OKC did. That's why they're in the position.
Rob Dillingham isn't the answer to catching up to OKC long term.
Thank you, Mars.
I'd
rather have KD for 3 years.
I'm sure we'll be in 2028 and we'll be talking about why is Rob Dillingham looking borderline unplayable against OKC when you have a 6'1" guy who you can't hide on defense. Like that's not the answer to catching up to OKC. The answer to catching up to OKC.
I mean, if
he's going to get hunted into oblivion. That's what's going to happen. No matter how talented offensively he may become, which is still kind of a long shot, he's going to get hunted into oblivion. OKC or OKC because they have no one you can attack.
Are they going to stay together?
You're going to put Rob Dillingham out there. It's like, oh, hey, here you go. Here's free eats. Take a look. Buffet. Like, that's my.
I will say younger. The OKC point. I think for the next 2-3 years, this is pretty much the roster that's going to stay intact. I think once that second apron hits, they have the draft picks to consolidate their current players in depth, but it's also young players in depth that they're relying on to fill these valuable roles that right now are being filled by veterans. So I don't think that the window for OKC is as secure as it would have been 10 years ago when we're not in the second apron of the NBA. The reason I like the KD trade is because ideally to make the salaries work, and the Suns have came out and it's been reported that the Suns are looking for a center in a trade. Julius Randle and Naz Reid could both be used to go get Kevin Durant, and you could either offer Rob Dillingham or the 17th overall pick, depending on the pathway that you choose. I like KD to Minnesota for multiple reasons.
Wait, hold on. Julius Randle, Naz Reid, and Rob Dillingham?
I would just probably get a 17th overall pick.
But you hold on, no. You know that a report came out yesterday that the Suns have heavily lowered their asking price.
Yeah, I wouldn't give up Rob Dillingham. I don't want to, but the salaries, that's how it will work, depending on what Randle gets, because you still have to match KD's contract. The trade could end up being Julius Randle, DiVincenzo, and the 17th overall pick. It could be that, but the Suns want a center. So I'm assuming that Nas Reed to them is very valuable in this deal.
Trade
But
for
overall,
KD to win.
I like
Trade
it because
KD for
Minnesota is one of those few teams that I think can trade for Kevin Durant, and it's a realistic opportunity for him to compete for a championship, which I think a lot of KD trades, we kind of look at it and say, well, yeah, if he goes there, they're probably not going to have that much of a chance. I think Minnesota is a real chance to compete for a championship. And number two is, let's say they do trade for Kevin Durant, and the trade I propose is something that they make. Regardless if it's Nas Reed or Dante, one of those two things. You still have Anthony Edwards, you still have McDaniel, you still have Terrence Shannon Jr., you still have Jalen Clark, you still have Rob Dillingham. They still have young pieces, and they would have, if they kept the 17th overall pick, that pick, and the 31st overall pick. Like, there are not many teams that are as talented as the Wolves, and they have 2 picks in the draft that they can improve on, an early second round pick and a mid first round pick from the Pistons. So I think the Timberwolves are in a good spot to improve this roster, whether or not they make a big time move.
They still got to change that offense too. I think they're in the same space with the Knicks in terms of more ball movement, because we already talked about how Anthony Edwards needs to learn how to play more off the basketball. And to Mars's point, with them upgrading at the lead guard spot, if they're going to upgrade at the lead guard spot, they could implore a faster point guard, because if you think about the athletes that Minnesota has, they should be playing a lot faster than they do. They should be a better transition team than they are. That ball should move a lot more than it does, but it doesn't. And I feel like if you can get, I think that's Rob Dillingham, Mars. I know I'm in the minority. You picked him.
I'm with you, Chill.
I think it's Rob Dillingham. You traded him, turn this kid into the league. I understand your issue with him being small. I definitely get that. But Oklahoma City deployed a defense where Cason Wallace, as good as Cason Wallace is as a defender, he ain't 6'6", 6'7".
Rob Dillingham 6'1".
Okay,
Yeah,
so
like maybe
170.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And
He's short and slim.
but
I think Dillingham is 6'3" with shoes on.
but that doesn't mean
Okay,
I
he
don't
can't.
care
I'm
what his
65 with
listed height
shoes
is.
on.
I don't know what I'm watching.
And that doesn't mean that does that
He
doesn't
look like
mean
he
that-
might.
Also, didn't he have a 6'2" wingspan? Like, there's no length there either. He has literally nothing to work with defensively.
So
Fellas,
then it sounds to
we
me like
know-
Minnesota might have made a mistake drafting him.
No,
if
they
that's the
didn't,
case.
Chill. We
No,
know
he's a
he has
talented
defensive
player.
limitations.
I think he's the elite guard of the
talented
Here's
player.
my thing. I feel like we're
Yeah, I
overrating
think so.
the 8th pick in the worst draft class that we've seen in at least a decade. Like, I understand that Minnesota believed in him. They traded up. I didn't like them trading up for him at the time. Like, this was a guy who, if he had gone 12th, 13th in the worst draft class in more than a decade, it wouldn't have been a
Nobody would've
surprise. That's not an untouchable asset. Like, I'm not going to say that Rob Dillingham doesn't have really interesting offensive potential. I think he does. He's jittery. He's a big-time shooter. He can really handle. But even with the offense, like Mars said, there's questions about the finishing. There's questions about what level of a playmaker is he. While we know he's going to be an awful defender, and he wasn't a rotation player for you.
Do
this
we
year.
know that
So
he's
the
going to be an
idea,
awful defender, though? Do we
Yeah.
know
I
that?
would bet a lot.
Yes.
I would bet a lot,
Yes.
man.
What's
And
the
he-
avenue for him not being just bad his whole career? What's the avenue for him not being a bad defender?
Just because he's small, that doesn't mean that he's going to be an
What's the
awful
No,
pathway
in
to
this- in this-
success?
When
What's
you're
the
that
pathway to
I mean, I
success?
think the
Okay, so
comp is like
the pathway to success for him specifically is to build guys around him, bigger defenders, more
Which they
athletic
have.
wings, more
Jaden
bigger
McDaniels,
defenders,
Anthony
right?
Davis.
More,
Yeah,
Rudy
more
Gobert, even though he won't be there forever, but-
you're explaining ways to hide him. That's
Yeah.
cool. I'm asking him individually, what is the pathway for him to not be bad?
Okay,
Not what is the
so-
pathway for the Timberwolves to hide
Right.
him.
So-
What's his pathway to not be a bad defender?
Okay, so let's not act like small defenders have not been good defenders.
Yeah, Chris
We've
Paul's
seen-
been a good defender.
Yes, we've
yeah.
seen small
Yeah,
defenders. So
obviously.
number one, I got to get stronger. That's number one. Number
That's-
two,
that-
I gotta
That's
number one,
major.
I got to get stronger. Number two, I got to learn the game. Don't forget, I'm only 19 years old. Boss, it's not like I'm 20, 23,
He's
24.
20, but close
Okay,
enough.
20 years old. I'm starting to learn the game. And with me learning the game, I got to understand defenses. I got to understand rotations. I got to understand at my size how to be effective. That comes with IQ, and that comes with me being on the floor. And to your point, Mars, even though it might be a little bit combative, to your point, I got to get my ass kicked to learn. That's the only way I'm going to learn. I got to get my ass kicked. There's no way for me to just come out here and just be a great defender. No, I got to understand how to play defense, get stronger, understand rotations, learn how to play in gaps, and also too make my offense be my defense. Also, I got to put you on the defense as a good offensive player, which means improving my offensive game.
You're making a great case for him, but I think the only pathway to where Rob Dillingham is making a huge impact is just him accelerating his offensive growth and getting stronger this offseason and being undeniable on that end, being an instant spark for them offensively. I think that's their biggest pathway. At the end of the day, I mean, he is Rob too shifty.
I think if we look at some of like the shorter guards who teams don't mind leaving out there, if we look at Cason Wallace, he's really strong. We look at Drew Holiday, he's really strong. Fred VanVleet, they have
6'4".
Yeah, exactly. Like
Fred VanVleet
yes.
They have they're stronger guys. They're stronger guys who are very active with their hands. Rob Dillingham coming into the league, if he stays where he is right now, he's going to get attacked. Like that's going to be the focal point of the offense every time a team comes in.
Even if we look, that's a part of it. That's how I'm gonna get better.
But
has that worked for Jalen?
I mean, I could go into a boxing ring right now and get knocked out. I'm not going to turn into a good boxer because it happens a bunch. Like that's not going to happen.
I can tell you what though, Mars, you can go into a boxing ring and get knocked out, but I bet you the next time you go in there, you ain't gonna get knocked out the same way. Your defense is going to be different. You're going to learn how to
guarantee the exact same thing will happen.
If you're a boxer, your defense is going to be different. Your footwork is going to be different. You ain't just walking in the ring and getting dropped again. No, that's not going to happen.
If we look at some of the Western Conference teams, like if we look at OKC, J-Dub's going to attack them. Chet, SGA. If we look at the Nuggets, Aaron Gordon can attack him. Jamal Murray, Jokic. Like, why are we making the case for him if he's not ready right now?
Because Rob Dillingham is an archetype that is really non-existent in the NBA.
That's not true. Bones Highland exists, and he don't even.
No, he's not Rob Dillingham. He's not as fast as Rob Dillingham.
You said archetype. I'm just saying the archetype.
He's not okay, but I'm saying like, and I'm not
like a comparison I'd make to Dillingham is I think year 2 is probably unrealistic, but let's just say he's in year two, he's 75% of what Peyton Pritchard was this year. I think that is a spark of rotation.
Pritchard is not Rob Dillingham.
Either you're disrespecting Peyton Pritchard or you're overrating Rob Dillingham.
I'm overrating Rob Dillingham.
Okay.
We're
doing Pritchard just won 6th man of the year.
They're just completely different like players. Like Pritchard's a strength-based guy, Dillingham's a speed-based guy. Like they're just completely different.
But Pritchard is just as small.
Yeah. Can I tell you guys something? I think we're focusing way too much on the point guard spot. I think it's important that Minnesota finds a guy that's viable for this position, but when you've got a guy like Anthony Edwards who's going to have the ball in his hands so much, I think it's more important that you prioritize having a shooter and a defender next to him. Not that you need to completely ignore this position, but it's like, that's why I'd be okay with going out and making that sacrifice to go and get a KD. It's like, I have my primary ball handler, I have my defenders, and as good as Dillingham is, he's never going to be as good as... If you could make that trade, if you could find the piece, the trade to make it happen, he's never going to be as good as what KD is right now. And I think he addresses the biggest need that you have on this roster, and that is a secondary, reliable shot maker. And not only that, KD brings you some playmaking and brings you some defense and brings you some rebounding and other things. I just think that he legitimizes and opens this window in a way that you're not going to have if you don't make this move. And I'll say it like this. Joel, you talked about how the Knicks were always doubted through the regular season, and I'll put my hand up. Nick Collison, that's on me. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect the Knicks to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. They had to have a couple of things break their way. If the Timberwolves go all in and put their chips in the middle of the table, who's to say that some things don't break their way in the Western Conference next season and they can't make a run? It's like you never know until we get there, and I think the KD trade would make sense. And all I'm saying is, I would not be hung up on Rob Dillingham long term if that is the deal breaker between me and making a big time move like that. Like, I love Dilly too. I love Dilly, but he's not a deal breaker to me if I need to move him to make a big move.
I mean, who's to say that Minnesota next year can't catch a lucky break in the playoffs and not play OKC? And you're in that serious thinking, if we had Kevin Durant here, we probably get over the hump.
Yeah, but that's why I don't like kind of what a couple teams have done over the last couple seasons, building your team to beat one specific team, because there's 29 other teams in the NBA, with 28 including yourself. So like you have to be able to beat like the Indiana Pacers. I feel like they did it right. They have the ability to compete with any and every team.
Kevin Durant
Knicks,
gives them a chance against every team, gives them a significantly better chance. It's just OKC is so talented, you have to be able to compete with their talent level. And Julius Randle is going to continually struggle against them because he can't attack mismatches. He can't handle the ball against them. They just put him in meltdown mode. But it's Kevin Durant. I just feel like Kevin Durant's become underrated. Like, this dude had such a great season, and because he had a joke of a team around him, I don't think people are appreciating that he is like a stamped top 10 player still.
Carson, but you know what the problem is? I don't think it's like, for me, like in all these scenarios where we talked about KD, even like with the Knicks, I was kind of like, me and Marsh had this discussion yesterday. I was kind of giving him pushback. The problem isn't KD's talent. It's not the fact that he's a 7-foot bucket getter. It's not the fact that he's a mismatch. It's not even the fact that he does still play a little bit of good defense. It's the fact that he's pushing 40. And it's just like your window is this.
37 years old on opening night.
He's 37, and he is still giving you 27, 6, and 4 on 64%
Well, and
shooting.
I think,
like he is still playing at this level because the guy shoots 55% from mid-range and 40% from 3, and he's damn near 7 feet and is the most gifted ball handler we've ever seen at that size.
He tore his Achilles. Like, if it hadn't happened then, like, I'm sorry, like,
yeah,
I agree.
KD's not exactly just going to fall off a cliff.
Are you not supposed to bank on that though?
Exactly.
Why?
And also,
he
too,
tore his Achilles in his 30s. Like, the rim pressure has gone down, the driving has gone down.
Everything about KD's game that would decline with age has declined, and he's still this good.
It's not necessarily the decline that I'm worried about. It's not the decline. It's the fact that how long are you going to be here?
I think
you're not.
Give me whatever you got.
I think of high level play
solution for anyone. Like,
he has 2 years.
And has a short term and a long term window. Ant has from 20. He's 20. He's going to be 24 next year. Ant's going to have from the age 24 season, and hopefully for Minnesota until he's like 35. Like, they want to keep him long term. But you still want to maximize the next 3 years where you can be like, okay, from 24 to 27, and have Kevin Durant. And then when KD's gone, you still have pieces, or you can go out and get pieces that then complement Ant from 27 to 35. You don't need someone instantly at 23. Oh, this is the guy who's going to partner Ant for a decade. You don't need to do that, especially if it doesn't exist.
That's true.
Especially because,
you don't need to forego that.
And you're going to have multiple cores and multiple windows no matter what. Rudy Gobert is not part of Ant's long-term future. Like, this is a window, and then there will be a pivot to another window. That's what happens when you have a guy who's as good as Ant is this young, and your team is this good when he's this young.
My question to you guys is, do you think that Rudy Gobert this offseason, it's a talking point whether or not he's expendable, or
I don't think
he's too valuable?
I've been the biggest boot Gobert out of town guy because Gobert's the most frustrating watch in the league offensively, but I just think he's too valuable to move off of. Like, he's going to make your defense elite, and I just think it's important that you have versatility and depth at that position. Like, if you could bring back Naz Reid, it's just important that you have a guy like that in that mold where you can turn to a 5-out spot. Or if Gobert does get played off, because I don't want to act like that can't happen, but Gobert gives you such a high defensive floor. And if they were to make this deal, I just think you're looking at a Minnesota team that has such elite balance and a team that complements each other. Ant as a rim pressure and as a primary ball handler. KD is that secondary guy. You've got McDaniels and Gobert for defense. Like, I just think you're looking at a team that has got a lot of balance and really works together. So on the Gobert point, it's like, one, I don't know what the hell you're getting back for Gobert that's like comparable value because of how big that contract is. But more importantly, I just think he's imperative to this team's success.
And I also think that you need to upgrade at the backup big spot too. So if you upgraded at the backup big spot, I think that would really help you guys, especially as you're not going to get a 15 and 10 guy off the bench. I'm not saying that, but I do think that you can get somebody that's viable.
You're saying if you lose Naz.
If I definitely got to get a backup big for Rudy Gobert. And the reason why Mars, to your point about Anthony Edwards and not pairing somebody with him for the next 10 years, the reason why I'm so wrapped up in the lead guard spot is because this offense is heavily predicated on Anthony Edwards with the basketball. And I think that Anthony Edwards, once he learns how to play without the basketball, I think he's going to be even better, which is going to make this offense even better, which is why I feel like the offense needs to change. And with the offense changing, and I get a backup big, and I get Anthony Edwards playing off the ball, and I get Rob Dillingham turning into, like, if I could get Rob Dillingham to turn into Darius Garland, set to be better on defense, I know that sounds crazy. If I could get him,
you know what, Chill? I would take that.
I'm
with you. I would
take that. If I could get him to turn into Darius Garland, except a better defender, I'm loving life.
Well, that's not going to happen.
I am loving life.
I mean,
now you talking.
If I could get that, because the thing I'm thinking about, because your biggest issue with him, one, which is the most important thing, he's small. So with him being small and him being light at what would you say, like 165, 170? Okay, we can fix that. That's not. I'm not.
He doesn't have a frame that really looks to me like it's gonna fit.
And last I checked, just because I'm wiry does not mean that I'm weak. I could be wiry. Wemby is arguably the best defensive player in the league. A good gust of wind come over and blow him right away.
He got 8 foot wings.
7'4".
Yeah, he's going 8 foot wings.
That really helps.
And
Being
he's
7'4" helps.
Right. But with him, but he's developed some strength. In his
Wemby kind of has a frame. It's not surprising that Wemby added strength and muscle, and I think he'll continue to.
I don't think Wemby's going to turn into Giannis. I'm not going that far. I don't think he's going to look like that.
So, OG, I got a question for you.
Sure.
In the next 3 years, would you take this point guard or Rob Dillingham? Next 3 years. I'm giving you a 3-year window. The first name I'm going to mention is Tyrese Maxey.
I'm taking Maxey over Dillingham.
Yeah, we go lower those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Payne Pritchard.
This is the good one. This is a real good one.
I'll take Dilly.
Yes, I'm taking Dillingham over Peyton Pritchard. I think that I've seen what I'm going to see from Peyton Pritchard, and in terms of him getting better, I mean, I think Rob Dillingham. I think he's got a really good upside, Miles. I do. I think he's got a really good upside.
If he turns into a better player than Peyton Pritchard, I think that's good value for that.
Yes, I think he turns into. I think he turns into a damn good player.
I'm with you, Chill.
Yeah.
Okay. Next name, Emmanuel Quickly.
Dillingham.
That's another wiry defender who.
To be honest with you, I don't know. I'm a little concerned with Quigley in terms of his stability. Like, is he a guy that I can count on to be around? I don't mean mentally. I mean, is he going to physically hold up? That's the thing that I'm worried about with him. I think Rob Dillingham at 19, 20 years old, I think he can get stronger. I don't think he's had any injury history like that. And I think with just watching him in terms of his confidence, Rob Dillingham, like when I watch him, he looks like he knows what he's doing out there. Even though I don't know what I'm doing, even though I have no idea, he looks like he knows what he's doing out there. So
I like his playmaking chops more than Quickly too. I think that's an underrated aspect. Maybe more so in the half court, just with angles and stuff that you're concerned about Dilly being able to find. But as like a decision maker and getting out in transition, I think he's good there too. Quickly's like literally my favorite player, but I'd take Dilly too.
All right, next name, Andrew Nembhard.
Oh, come on.
I just want to be clear. This is the dude who we're talking as being like the future guard alongside Ant, and these are the lines that we're debating?
Yes, exactly. Like
I don't know, man. That's just not a sticking point for me if I can go out there and get Kevin Durant. My future Andrew Nembhard.
Like, I don't think he's going to be better than Nembhard.
Well, I mean, the defensive gap is always going to be big. Offensively, he can definitely be better than Nembhard. But
that's where I'm at.
It's the guys like Nembhard and Peyton Pritchard who are big for them right now. Because like those two, they can play make, they can space the floor. They're tenacious defenders. They bring that championship DNA, Mars, and it's just like those are two guys who I would love if I'm the Minnesota Timberwolves to have Peyton Pritchard or Nembhard.
All right, Dillingham on Reed Shepherd.
I'd rather have Reed.
Me too.
I'd rather have Dillingham.
I'd rather have Reed.
I
can appreciate Reed's ability to stretch the defense and his ability to shoot. That's probably why he didn't play as much as he could have this season, and maybe that's going to turn around. I think Rob Dillingham's shot creation, his ability to get downhill, and his potential long ball, I think it could be better than Reed.
All right, I got a couple more names for you, OG. This next name is Derek White.
Over Dillingham?
Yeah, Derek White or Dillingham.
Is Dillingham going to be better than Derek White?
In the next 3 years?
No.
Like, who would you rather have in the next 3 years, Dillingham or Derek White?
How old is Derek White? Is he 20, 28?
29. I think 29.
I'd take Derek White.
Yeah. I'm taking Derek White.
All right. Next name, Scottie Pippen Jr.
I'm taking Dillingham over Scottie Pippen Jr.
Okay.
Dillingham there.
I have this is a good one. Colin Sexton.
I was just thinking Colin Sexton because I love Colin Sexton. I think he's wasting away in Utah. I do. I don't think he's going to be better than Collins. That's a tough one. I'm going to take Dillingham, though. I am.
Good pick, Chill.
I'm going to take Dillingham. I love Colin Sexton, though. I just think he's wasting away in Utah. I do. If Colin Sexton was in Miami, he'd be so much better.
Breaking it down like this, you need Rob Dillingham to develop pretty rapidly in the next 3 years for you to.
It'll be year 4 though, Joe. Like so within the next so this season's already gone. So 3 more years. So we're in year 4. Like at what point do we start to say because you know how I am. I say by year 5, this is probably who this guy is. So I mean, if we get to year 4 and we're still then we may have to start thinking about moving on from these dudes.
I think that's a timetable I give players too. Year 4 or 5 is usually when I feel like, okay, that's the player you're going to be around there.
Y'all might think I'm crazy, but I think Rob gonna be ready to go next year.
You thought he was ready to go this year.
Now, with that being said, I'm not saying he's gonna step in and average 20 and 10. No, but it's to me, there's something to be said, and I think it's almost priceless to have a point guard that can get in the paint every single time they want to. Now, obviously, he has to work on his finishing. He has to work on his decision making. He has to work on his scoring in the mid range. But he can literally get downhill at will.
He has a nice floater,
and I think that's something that's invaluable for this team.
Both Carson and Logan, you guys harp on paint touches. That's a huge thing for you guys. So if you got a guy that can consistently get in the paint, I mean, that's huge for you as a lead.
So Isaiah Collier or Dillingham?
Dylan. I loved Collier, but Dillingham.
I'm taking Dillingham.
Really?
Isaiah Collier gets in the paint more consistent.
And he's a better
Collier. You
playing more
in love with Collier.
Collier was my
he has the ability to get into the paint way more. He just has that ability.
Collier just needs to finish. I still love Collier as a prospect. I mean,
I don't know who we think Rob Dillingham is. Rob Dillingham shot 50% at the rim in college. He is a limited finisher. He is small and slight as hell.
Collier is strong. Collier's really strong.
This conversation would be so much different.
I believe he went that late in the draft, man.
If instead of Dillingham, when the Timberwolves traded up at 8 to get him, they drafted Jared McCain. Because that's another name that, they passed him up. But Jared McCain, if he's in Minnesota, if he's in Minnesota right now, we're looking at Minnesota totally differently. Like, okay, they have that position figured out.
Maybe not though. Maybe he doesn't.
But I think that's what. So why are we? Sorry, Ron, not to cut you off. Why are we treating Dillingham like he's untouchable? That's just kind of my takeaway from all this.
He's not untouchable. He's not.
I just don't think he should.
He can't hold up the trade for KD. I'm not going to say that. No.
Okay.
If there's a trade on the table and KD is involved in it, I'm not going, well, he can't come if I got to give up Dillingham. No, I'm getting fired. I'm not doing that. No.
Yo, we do have to move on. I just do want to say one more thing on the Wolves. I don't think I'm paying Julius Randle that type of money. I would much rather keep Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Naz Reid. And Julius, if we can sign and trade you for KD, blessings.
Yeah.
Or somebody else, blessings.
That's where I am. But
I agree. If you traded Cat to get off the contract, why are you going to go and pay Julius Randle almost $50 million for 4 years and be attached to him until he's 34 at that dollar value? I agree. I think you have to be reasonable with what you're willing to pay him.
It's just, I believe now with the, second apron and whatnot, we're going to see which GMs are the best budgeters now. Not just who can make the best moves, who's the most financially sound, who's going to be able to get the most bang for their buck. And I just believe, like, with Julius Randle, I'm budgeting. It's no way that I'm spending the little bit of money that I have on Julius. But, all right, y'all, obviously, you know why we're here. You guys know what's tomorrow. I'm getting excited just thinking about it. Game 1 of the 2025 NBA Finals, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Indiana Pacers. We are going to get into that. We're going to talk about, who everybody thinks is going to win, how many games, what's each team's keys to victory, who's the X factors, whose legacy gets boosted the most with the Finals MVP. Can't wait for that. But before we get there, chat, you know what to do. Like the video, turn on your notification bells. If you're on Twitter, salute to you. Quote tweet all the dumb tweets that we've got and let us know that we need to get better with our takes, X, Y, and Z. But we do have some super chats. So let's see what the people got to say. The first one from MTHJ 301. MTHJ said, only Texas team that can match KD's money without destroying their roster / future is the Spurs. He said minimum Vassell, Keldon Johnson, and picks. Fred can't go until the 29th after the draft. The Suns want to trade before then. Sporkle segment? Sporkle.
So the Suns want to trade before then. But if the deal works after the draft, why won't they just wait?
I think that
they can make a deal. They could just tell Houston who to draft with the 10th pick and just have it like under the table.
That's true.
Like, oh, we want this guy with the 10th pick. You draft him, and then after when Fred VanVleet's available, we'll trade Fred VanVleet and him for KD. Like that's just what would happen. Houston could definitely get KD for even cheaper than anyone, really. But
it's
what would KD cost if you are the Houston Rockets? You on the phone with the Phoenix Suns right now, Mars? What's the asking price? If you're Phoenix,
you trying to get young pieces from Houston. I don't know who that is.
I need them draft.
You trying to get as many of your picks back as possible, and then that's what you're trying to get. If you're Houston, you're offering Fred VanVleet, the 10th pick, and Jock Landale. And you're saying, here you go.
So rewind that segment. Rewind. Mars, once again. What are you giving me if you are Houston for Phoenix?
Fred VanVleet, Jock
Mars,
Landale.
Rewind, Mars. Once again.
No, that's what I'm giving.
Then this is the phone. Click. We're done talking.
Okay, goodbye. Okay.
Goodbye.
Oh no, I don't have Kevin Durant, my 2 seed. Okay. I think I'm twerking for KD. I'm good. I don't need him.
You were the same one who was up here doing that for KD. What?
Yeah, for Fred VanVleet, Jock Landale, and a
we are
pick.
not giving you no damn.
Okay, so I shall not twerk for Kevin Durant.
Goodbye, Mars. Talk to you later.
Okay, I will go elsewhere with my Fred VanVleet, Jock Landale on a pick. I don't need Kevin Durant. We were just the 2 seeds. Guess what you need? Some picks. You were the 11 seeds.
And I'll get my picks back. Sure, I ain't getting them from you, and I'm not gonna get them. You ain't the only one in the league with play. You ain't the only one in the league with
your picks.
What are you talking about? Just because you got my picks, that doesn't mean that I got. Just because you got my picks, no. You're not doing that. Just because you got my picks, that doesn't mean that I got to only deal with you. So what? That doesn't mean that I got to only deal with you just because you got my picks.
Yes. You're trying to be a bad team. I have your picks. But no, I'll get a pick from this playoff team over here so I can build with the 23rd pick every year. I'm so scared of the Suns with the 23rd pick.
Yeah, I'm not definitely dealing with you.
Okay,
I'll go get some picks back from somebody else. And
I'll go get some picks. Notice how they're not your picks. Right. When you're bottoming out because you went and got the 20.
We already suck anyway. So it's not like we're building
when you're bottoming out, getting the 23rd pick from Dallas. Meanwhile, I'm watching you tank, getting top 5 picks because you were too petty to not want to trade Kevin Durant to us. So guess what? I'm getting top 5 picks,
and I'm not trading them to you for a bucket of extra crispy and a 6-pack. I'm not handing them over to you for that. Hell no, I'm not doing that.
Oh yeah, so have fun with your late first round picks, and I have fun with my top 10 picks.
You can have fun with your top 10 picks. What you're not going to do is you're not just going to fleece me and give me Fred VanVleet, Jock Landale, and the 10th pick. I don't think so, Mars. Try again.
Well, you were just glazing the 8th pick, so I don't know why the 10th pick is all of a sudden the problem.
So how about this one idea? If you got the 8th pick, give me that too.
No.
So then we're not talking. How about that? Okay, and I already asked, matter of fact, why are you dealing with you? I've been asked you for the kid. You won't hand the kid over. So why are we even talking anymore?
I don't know. You just seem to not understand that Houston hold all the cards. Like Phoenix are begging Houston to take KD, not the other way around. We have the leverage. Well, we as in Houston. I'm impartial, but Houston have the leverage. They have all of Phoenix's picks. They have the assets that Phoenix won. Phoenix want to get off Kevin Durant because of the second apron stuff, and Bradley Beal can't be moved.
Yep.
Phoenix want Houston to make a deal. Houston are not forced to make a deal. Houston were just the number 2 seed. Houston believe in their young core, whether that's right or wrong. That's neither here nor there. But Houston believe in their young core. They are not desperate to get Kevin Durant. But Phoenix are desperate to get off Kevin Durant. And the only place that makes logical sense for Phoenix's future is Houston. So whether you like it or not, yes, Houston are going to offer a low price for Kevin Durant because Houston are not forced to trade for Kevin Durant. So yes, you will either accept Fred VanVleet, Jock Landale, and the 10th pick, and if you're lucky, Cam Whitmore. If you're lucky,
would you take?
That's about it.
Would you take
Mars?
Devin Booker?
Anything else? No.
I'm
Would
with
you take
you.
Devin Booker
I'm
instead?
not. Hey, if
You
that's
don't
how the
have to.
Rockets
I'm not
acting-
forcing you to.
No,
You
no,
don't
I
have
get
to.
that. I get that. I'm saying I would. If that's the case, I'm going to the Wolves.
Go ahead.
If that's the
That
case,
makes more
I'm-
sense. Go get Julius Randle and try to remain competitive.
Like,
That makes
but
sense.
this trade right here, especially like Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, and some picks, I'd rather get the 2 younger players in their picks. And like,
Might be
yes,
able to
it's not my
snag an Atlanta
picks,
pick.
but
Have fun with that. Yeah, have fun.
I'm with Mars in the sense that I think that the Rockets have all the leverage. And so I'm going to be super stingy in negotiations. Like I'm going to nickel and dime Phoenix as much as I can. I definitely want KD, but like Mars said, it's like the Suns are the beggars in this situation. Like they got to come to me and come with good offers. I'm just not. I would try to be as stingy as possible in that negotiation if I'm Houston.
When you
Logan,
realize
you
that the
for sure
Spurs
do,
are only, the Spurs aren't even going to offer Devin Vassell. I promise you. They'll offer you Keldon Johnson and Harrison Barnes. That's what they'll offer. You're not
The
getting
Suns
Devin
have
Vassell.
already, and if we're having a real conversation, Miles, and we're being honest. First and foremost, if I'm any team, for lack of a better term, fuck you, Phoenix. You put yourself in this situation. This is your problem. Okay, I definitely get with that. But okay, I did screw up, and I have to take what's available. But I don't have to take anything. No, I don't have to do that.
That's
And
my
I do
point.
it-
You don't
I-
have to.
I-
You don't have
I-
to
I-
trade
I-
with Houston,
I-
but
right.
Houston aren't changing their offer. That's what
I
I'm
don't
saying.
have to. I do have Kevin Durant. I do have, to Costas' point, I do have 26 a game on 63% true shooting overhead. I do have that. I do have Devin Booker. I do have that. So
Devin Booker will command a bigger asking price, but that's because he has a longer term deal. Kevin Durant's on an expiring contract.
right.
Phoenix want to get off of him, and Phoenix have no leverage in any trade conversation. So the Spurs are going to offer Keldon Johnson, Harrison Barnes, and a pick. The Rockets are going to offer Fred VanVleet, Jock Landale, and a 10th pick.
Yep.
Maybe 2 first-round picks. Maybe Cam Whitmore. Maybe. That's about it. The Mavs are going to offer salary filler. They're going to offer you PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford,
Clay.
and a Klay Thompson, and a pick down the line. That's what they're going to offer you.
This
You're
is
not
why
getting-
everybody should be in on
one's
KD
offering
this
it. Exactly.
offseason.
KD is going to be so cheap because every team knows Phoenix have no leverage. Every team in the NBA knows.
Whatever.
Let me
Phoenix
ask you
have
this,
no
Mars.
leverage in this situation.
He's not going
Do
to.
you get to a spot where the price is so low that so many teams are interested that it actually drives the price back
Yeah.
up?
Yes,
Because-
that's possible. That's possible.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Because every team can compete. Every contender can compete for KD.
Right.
Because you don't have to blow up your roster. You just need to make the money work. So, like, if you're like, OKC's not going to do it because they're so comfortable. But like, even OKC could just be like, here you go, KD trade package. Like, every team could do it. So it gets to the point where you do just have to outdo everyone else slightly. And that's where, once again, Houston get the front seat because Houston have Phoenix's future in their hands. So they could just attach one more Phoenix pick, and all of a sudden they have by far
would
the
they be
best
willing to do that? See, now that's
One
that's
more
a
Phoenix
different,
pick?
that's a
Possible.
different story, Morris. Like, so at first you just said the number 10 pick, and my problem is I'm getting caught up on the names. It's no way on God's green earth I ever trade KD
Phoenix
for
need a
Jock
point guard.
Landale
Phoenix need a point guard.
and Fred VanVleet. But it's not going to be Fred VanVleet. I will
He's a
cut my
PLA.
nose to spite my face. Fred and Jock.
I could do
No
better
way.
than that,
Mm-mm.
Ron. I can. I know that I don't have
Did we
much.
not Fred VanVleet in the playoffs
Nah.
for game
Ron,
three?
I know I
for the
don't
three-
have
you
much,
see that?
right? I don't have a lot of leverage. I could do better than Fred.
Hey, chill. I'll take it a
Jock
step
and the
further.
10.
I'll buy
I
him
can
out
do
before I
better.
do that.
I could do better.
All right.
Pride is crazy.
Nah, hey,
Pride is
if I'm gonna
I
get
can
whooped,
do better than
completely whooped. Hey, let me get completely whooped. But with that being said, though, if y'all attach that other pick, I think that right there takes it to a step above, like kind of how you said.
Picks.
I expect him to be in Houston.
Yeah.
I just don't think it'll be very expensive.
All right. We got another super chat from Cowboy Bobby. Cowboy Bobby said, "Thank you for your services, Tibbs. Cleaned up the streets of New York and made New York relevant again. No trade, run it back with the 4 rookies to make the 11-man roster. More I can say, but everyone hates the New York Knicks. Go New York, go." How you feel about this, Joel? Run it back?
He's
Play the
not
rookies?
wrong. Run it back. You play some of the rookies, sign a veteran on the mid-level exception, and we're back in this position next year, baby.
Mm.
Tupac Westside, throw him up. Mr. Westside said, I know this isn't new, but I'm sick of this bullshit. All these coaches deserve criticism.
Don't put Darvin in there, man. Don't put Darvin in there. Darvin is Darvin just sucked, man. Salute. I mean, come on, bro.
I mean, Darvin made the conference finals and like JJ Redick lost in the first round, right?
That did happen.
That did
happen.
happen.
Let's not act like that didn't happen. That did happen.
Hey, let's go hard on them dudes.
Salute.
Maybe that's what the Lakers should have done against the Timberwolves. I don't know.
That's a good point.
Pimp named Slickback said, I think it's very important to have the new CBA by your side when discussing these trades now. Bobby Marks did a great job of breaking down how bad Cat's contract is viewed. Hence why Minnesota traded him.
What was he on the books for? Like 225 or something like that? I think that's where they went with him.
It's something pricey. I was looking at it this past weekend on my podcast.
They ended up trading for Julius Randle. They end up trading.
It's a tough contract. I'll say that.
It's getting up to $60 million a year,
and that's going to get really expensive, especially with the Knicks. And to your point, Joel, like when you're in that second apron, that hampers you. So those mid-level exception guys that you like, nope, that's not happening because you're in the second apron.
It sounds like Jordan Ott is the Cavaliers head coach now.
The Suns?
Yes.
Head coach?
Well, my bad. Suns head coach, yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, so
he would love to coach Fred VanVleet.
I see that little smirk on your face, too. Okay.
Johnny Bryant's coming home.
Back in light of like Cat's contract and all these other contracts, do you guys believe that dudes start getting like less money? Yes. Do the teams just
Yeah, I think teams are going to have to realize that there's an opportunity cost with paying these guys. And I've always believed it. I think in every sport, there is a dollar value that you should not surpass with certain guys. And I think it's your responsibility as the front office and GM to determine exactly what that number is. Like for Julius, for me, it's like 30 to 35. I think every player has a dollar amount that you shouldn't surpass. Yeah, I do. I think we're going to see, and that's the one thing that I do hate. I don't know how y'all feel about this with the CBA. It makes me mad that the NBA didn't give like a run up or they didn't give teams like a heads up like 3 to 5 years out that this was going to be implemented, because I think a lot of these teams
throw them in the deep end.
Don't commit to these contracts. Like Gobert, I wonder if he doesn't get that. I wonder if Jaylen Brown doesn't get this $55 million. You know, it was like a sucker punch almost from the NBA. Wham! We got this CBA, and y'all are going to have to adjust real quick. And it's not like I have an issue that they implemented this for balance across the league. It's just the fact that it was such a surprise, because a lot of these teams that already had their cores in place, I don't think they go through with some of the moves that we see them made if they had known that this CBA was going to get introduced.
I think that's what the salary cap. I think that's what the salary cap is for, and I think that these teams, like the Knicks, for example, I think that they should have a better understanding. They should have a better understanding of, all right, how far are we going with OG Anunoby? Should we go to 40 million? Should we have gone to 40 million with OG Anunoby? How far are we going with Julius Randle, which would explain why they traded him for Cat, because we feel more comfortable paying Cat that dough as opposed to Julius Randle. Even though the question that I have for you, Joel, if you look at what's going on with the landscape of this New York Knicks team, I want you to rewind the clock, and I want you to, these guys are healthy. Mitchell Robinson's healthy. Julius Randle is healthy. Is that team last year better than this team?
With Hartenstein?
With Hartenstein.
We're way better.
And
y'all still get dogged by the Pacers, though. That's a slow ass lineup.
Talk
you
to
still
him.
You still don't, because you got a downhill guy in Julius Randle.
They might get swept.
I think they'd be better as a matchup against the Pacers. They wouldn't be as slow as they are now when they're putting Cat and Mitch out there together.
You know, when we were up 2-0 on them with Randall hurt and Mitch not playing and hurt.
And
OG going out after we took a 2-0 series lead and not playing for the remainder of the series.
Why'd he go out?
So sweet.
Right.
He got hurt.
I mean,
why did
are you saying last year?
I think a hamstring. It seems like Devin Booker's top choice was Jordan Ott. That's why the Suns went with him.
Oh yeah, they said they had brought him into the process to, of interviewing.
That's crazy. That means the Suns aren't going to trade Book.
Yeah, they've been very clear on that.
Yeah. They're a hell of an
Sun for
organization.
life. Sun for life.
That's such a sinking ship, man.
Oh, we need loyalty nowadays in the NBA. We need players to gut it through. Devin Booker doesn't mind.
Devin Booker the new Dame. Shout out to him.
Well, let's not act like Miles Turner ain't been in Indiana for 10 years. Let's not.
Yeah, but he's not the level of
Miles
player.
Turner.
He's Miles Turner.
Well, Giannis too.
Yeah,
Giannis
it's not the
is
same.
different.
Yeah, it's not the same. Book is the guy who can actually change trajectories for teams. Miles Turner is Miles Turner.
Miles Turner's a nice addition.
I thought this was about.
Miles Turner's been a centerpiece through three different phases.
He's a nice.
How do you define centerpiece? He's been a center.
Why are we doing this? We know Devin Booker and Miles Turner on the same. Why are we doing this?
No, we're not.
You guys just want to argue. I swear.
No, let's respect on the championship center.
I swear.
We're talking about these guys.
The championship center, Mars.
We ain't talking about
Centers in the league can say that.
I ain't doing that. I'm talking about just being on a crew for a long time. I ain't talking about these. I'm not talking about these guys as individual players. Devin Booker is definitely a better player than Miles Turner. I will not argue that point. But I'm talking about guys who stay on crews for longer than expected, because you got guys jumping around a lot more than you did in years past. Devin Booker's been in Phoenix. What are we in 2020? Is this year 10?
He's the same year as Miles Turner.
Yeah, so he's been there for Miles Turner. He's been in Indy. He said he played against
the
Tim
difference
Duncan.
with Miles Turner and Devin Booker is like the reason people are surprised Miles Turner's still in Indy was because he was in trade rumors every year.
Mm-hmm.
The reason people are surprised Devin Booker may still be in Phoenix is because he's the type of player who requests trades with how good he is and the roster's in shambles. Different level of player. Like,
and why didn't they trade him though? I mean, I remember. What's the kid's name that used to play for the Celtics? Broke his leg, went to Cleveland. Why am I?
Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward.
I remember Miles Turner and Gordon Hayward trade talks. I remember that was going on, and this was in like.
Gordon Hayward would have been. Gordon Hayward was real good.
Y'all remember the big trade for Miles Turner? Remember? Well, no, it wasn't a trade for Miles Turner, but so I seen this on my timeline a little bit ago. Remember, DeAndre Ayton had actually signed with the Pacers.
Oh yeah.
But the Suns matched it. What
did
the Pacers
save
look
the
like?
Pacers franchise?
Yeah,
save the Pacers franchise.
Did the Suns save them, or what would the Pacers look like with DeAndre right now?
Yeah, I mean,
they'd be in ruins.
Aiton's one of them cat dudes like Charmin, ultra soft.
Ayton playing with Hallie though.
That's what I was thinking, Carson. How much better is DeAndre Ayton playing with Halliburton?
Better. I mean,
that's like Steve Nash and Stoudemire.
Think about the 2020. Okay, whoa. Like the version of Ayton that you got in the 2021 playoffs, where CP's unlocking him offensively is a lot threatening.
Oh, where he's like not grabbing rebounds. Yeah.
In the 2021 run, Ayton was really good. He fell off after that.
double
I'm not a DeAndre Ayton guy, but I'm saying if there's any player who's going to elevate him, Hallie's one of those dudes. Still, I mean, I wouldn't want him on the contract he's on, but I think he'd look better in Indiana right now for sure than he does.
That's hard to look worse, but yeah,
fair.
He would look better in Indiana. I agree.
I would argue
he did
that
shoot crazy from the mid range this year. Though.
The Suns matching
his floater touch is crazy.
The Suns matching that deal saved their. I mean, yeah, it saved the Pacers organization.
Shout out to the Suns.
The Suns have saved a lot of other teams.
The Suns should get a de facto ring if the Pacers win. Just for that.
I agree.
All right, so we got another super chat from Simon718. Simon said, y'all thoughts on the Magic's rebrand that was just announced today? I love it besides the new logo. I think it's a great decision for an exciting young team with a bright future. Usher in the new era. Let me go ahead and throw this on the screen.
I really like the pin. I like the pinstripes. The logo is a little, but I like the direction. I like the
pinstripes and the logo too. I just hate that goofy ass third jersey. I don't know
why
didn't y'all go all black? Give me the old Shaq jerseys, the all black ones. I think if they went
that jersey was essentially a warm up.
Fire.
Yeah, man.
Those two are
like white.
No, they should have literally They should have literally just gone back to the 90s.
White, blue, and black, like all black. This one, that would be clean if it was all black. I'm all over it. If it was
all black, I would. My polo jersey would be on the ring.
It's all right.
I'm good.
I love how rebrands nowadays are just going back to what worked before.
Dude, yeah, because a lot of the vintage shit is just better.
Oh yeah.
I do like the pinstripes.
Nostalgia bouncing this. Look at this.
They are better. I would say I agree with the super chat about the logo of it. I don't know why NBA teams have a fixation with, since they're a basketball team, like most logos is just a circle and then a basketball within the circle.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I look at the NFL, their logos are kind of just the teams. They don't put like a football in like all their logos to be visible as possible. Like with the NBA, I feel like they've gotten lazier. It made me think about other teams that I want to go back to a rebrand. I want the Nets to move back to New Jersey. I'm biased. I'm from Jersey. That's why I would want them to move back. I want the Wizards to go back to their
me too.
blue and gold colorway as well.
You know what really makes me mad? It's so much Houston can do with their jerseys and their brand, and it's just like that boring ass R. Like the Hawks too, they could do so much with their branding. It's so boring. It's just the beak in a circle and it's white and red. Like they could do so much.
The Hawks logo
branding.
used to be fun, man.
Yeah,
a lot of these logos used to be
Hawks
fun.
jerseys also used to be like the best in basketball.
Toronto, I feel like Toronto is always up there with some of the best.
Toronto was
jerseys.
so sick. The Cavs, all the Cavs branding used to be so sick.
That early Bron era.
The best Rockets jerseys were when Harden first got traded there. That era of jerseys.
Yeah.
I like that the most.
All right, yeah, well, that's the new Orlando Magic rebrand.
I give it a solid like B. I think it's a B.
Yeah.
Yeah, they fumbled those black jerseys, man. I'm sorry. Them black jerseys could have been fantastic. Now they're just good.
13200 said, Knicks fan here. Thibs 100% needed to go. Nothing but iso ball offense, overplaying starters, not utilizing bench, poor adjustments. We'll always respect him for what he's done, but it's time for that old fart.
I mean, damn, y'all want him to defend the pick and roll too, bro? Like, that's the one thing that I hate that we're doing here. Don't get me wrong. Thibs was not a perfect coach. You can be critical of him. He wasn't the one getting fried and pick and roll every time. It was Cat's big soft ass. Like,
don't ignore Jalen Brunson.
Jalen Brunson too. It's like
every single
there are just glaring personnel issues that I think, man, you could bring Phil Jackson in there. Like, he's going to bust a vein trying to coach that team.
Please don't bring Phil Jackson in there.
Nowhere
near the team.
All right, we got another super chat from Them Fondendoli. Said, Adam Silver said next year the All-Star game will feature the U.S. versus the world. What do you think the teams would be, assuming players stay healthy, and who would you take?
So does that mean international players are going to have an easier time making the All-Star game?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Are we allotting 12 spots for each?
Does that mean like Larry Markkinen is like a shoe-in to be an All-Star? Like,
don't be surprised, Mars.
Is he fringe?
Because he's very clearly a top 12 international. Well, actually, is he? I think so.
You got Giannis, Shea, Wemby, Luka, and then you got like
Siakam.
Cat counts as international.
Cat counts. Dominican.
You might be able to throw Jamal Murray in there. Like,
not might. If you throwing Shea in there, you throwing Jamal Murray in there too.
I think they're still going to be
not good enough is the question.
Yeah.
Zubac,
KP, I guess theoretically.
Sabonis.
I'm gonna crash out, Joel. Don't do this, man. Don't do this, bro.
The Thompson twins did say they were going to represent
the
Jamaica.
Thompson twins, baby. I know.
Yeah.
Men might have some.
Norman Powell, Jamaican.
Yeah, all right.
Hey, Jalen Green, go represent the Philippines. You might make the All-Star game. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, we got Wemby,
could
we got
represent
Şengün.
Nigeria, I guess.
What about that kid that you love, Mars, in New Orleans, Misi?
Let's get him in there.
He's a long way.
I hope.
Hey, DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, man. I hope that this doesn't mean that they are going to guarantee 12 spots to international dudes, because straight up that would just ruin the integrity of the all-star selection and like what that has meant throughout the history of the league. So I think the idea is really fun, but I don't have a problem with us having 8 international dudes and 4 American dudes. Like, I much prefer that to us actually messing with who deserves these spots.
Yeah,
there were 7 international players in the All-Star game this past season.
But hold on, no, because Luka and Joel Embiid sat out.
Well,
so
Joel played for Team USA, so no.
We have to include Embiid.
Joel played for Team USA.
But they can bend it. This isn't the Olympics. We know Joel's.
Well, then put Kyrie on the international team too.
They can do that.
Might as well.
Right.
He won't be healthy, but in spirit.
That's very
true. And years down the line. I mean, yeah, I think it's cool. I've given up on the All-Star game doing anything.
Yeah.
If it's good, it's good.
Well, I do have to give the NBA credit because they are trying to make it viable again. So they are trying different things. They throwing things against the wall to see what'll stick. But you can't make guys compete if they don't want to.
It is crazy that every year they're trying something different now.
Yeah.
Like this tournament was a 1-year thing, and now we're already on to something else.
Yeah,
but like, I like this idea more than what we've seen. As long as we're okay with there being 4 American dudes on the international team, I think that this is actually really fun.
All right, y'all. One more super chat, and we're gonna go ahead and get into these finals predictions. This one comes courtesy of Keys. Keys said, John, 2 things. 1, stop trying to take Anthony Black off of my squad. KCP will go before him. 2, who do you think we should take with our two first-round picks?
See, I love this question because I love talking about the draft. There's a guy over there in Nick Clifford who plays for Colorado State. He's moved up the draft a little bit, has really good feel, really good shooting. He stands at about 6'6", is a pretty good team defender as well. I think when you look at Orlando and we go into the draft, shooting, feel, ball handle, anything offensive is something you need to be going for. So when you're looking at a guy like Nick Clifford, Liam McNeely, who's a really good shooter, Jace Richardson, who's a really good shooter off the ball, those guys are some of the guys that I would lean toward a little bit more. And then with your second pick, a little bit later down the draft, you go get a guy like Danny Wolf who can stretch the floor as a big. He's not the real traditional rim protector, but he's a guy that could be a solid team defender. And when you have guys like Jonathan Isaac who can play next to him, who can also be a really good rim protector at times, maybe you put him out there, just some more spacing for Franz, Paolo, and Jalen Suggs to really work with. So you got guys like those who can bring in. Now, if there's a guy like Con Knipple who just falls down the ground, go snag him because I'm really high on him. There's other guys, Jaeger Demon, who could be a good spot-up shooter. I don't think he's going to be a full-time point guard because he just really struggles to create space off the dribble, but somebody that can create advantages already made by Franz and Paolo and be a good shooter and passer standing at a true 6'8", that may be something you can go with as well. But those guys I mentioned are probably the guys that Orlando would be sticking to if I was the guy. Just offense and field. That's probably who I would be going with.
Is Paolo clear-cut better than Franz?
No, but me being biased and Paolo being one of my favorite players, I'm going to say he is.
I think he's better. Clear-cut, I don't think so. But I think he's better.
Yeah, I think if Paolo comes into this season playing how he did towards the end of the season and the start of the season, hey, I'm going to be saying some stuff. I'm going to be saying some things. Paolo, man, he's another guy that I talked about with Anthony Edwards, where the path to improvement is so clear. Become a better free throw shooter and just stop letting guys off the hook. There's so many times I've seen Paolo Banchero lean into a 16, 17-foot jumper with guys like Jordan Poole on him, Peyton Pritchard, Darius Garland. Go to the rim. When you go to the rim, there's nothing they can do. There's nothing they can do. So if you do that every single play and don't let the defense off the hook when you're already a really good passer, come on.
Yeah, he needs some shooting around him. And who's to say the Knicks, can't offer something? Go get Franz. Franz off the hands.
Oh, nice.
They need a 2-guard. I heard Mikal Bridges. He's pretty good.
Okay.
All right, fellas. We got the Indiana Pacers and we got the Oklahoma City Thunder. Talk to me. Who do we believe is going to win this series? I'm going to go around the room and I'm going to ask you guys and let me know in how many games and why. Carson, talk to me.
I'm going to take the Thunder in 6. I think that the Pacers are probably the best equipped offense to produce at a decent level against OKC's defense, but I still think that there's just a strong advantage to OKC there. They're one of the greatest defenses we've ever seen. They held opposing offenses more than 12 points below their regular season offensive rating in the Western Conference playoffs. That is the highest mark we have ever seen from an NBA finalist. So I think that what they have to do is go Chet at the 5, take iHeart out of the starting lineup, maximize your speed and switchability defensively. And then I think that they switch either 1 through 4 or they switch everything. And that gives them an ability to take away some of Indiana's sort of automatic advantages that they normally get versus drop coverage or that they get when you have to put 2 on the ball or hedge, and they can immediately get you in rotation. You trust your ability to switch everything, defend on an island, contain the ball. And I think they can do that really effectively. I think that they can make life really hard on Hallie comparatively. I think that Siakam is going to run into a lot of the same challenges that big forwards like Triple J and Julius Randle have, where you just can't attack mismatches against this team. You can't get the ball in the post. You can't handle around their guards. And then offensively, I just think that Shea is going to get whatever he wants. He dominated Indiana in the regular season. I don't think that they can guard him. I think that this is a great series for Chet. I think that with him playing more at the 5, as I expect, that's when he is much more effective offensively, and specifically against Miles Turner. I think there's a real quickness advantage for him there. I'm not going to say that we're going to see him driving past Turner over and over again like Cat did, but Chet is a very capable driver when he has a slower 5 matched up with him. So I think he has the best series of his playoff career. Jada played really well last series. The entire offense was just humming. Everybody was shooting the ball well from deep. And when the big 3 is playing up to their potential offensively, I know what I'm getting out of Shea, but I'm talking about J-Dub and Chet, and they're shooting 38% from 3 like they did last series. I think OKC is unbeatable because I think the defense is just that great, and that's the foundation. So I think Indiana has a high floor because of their transition offense, because of the fact that they're so good in the turnover and transition margins themselves. OKC is the best in those categories, but usually like OKC just blows teams out in those margins. I don't think that happens against Indiana. So I think that keeps them closer, but I still think that you're just dealing with an all-time defense and an all-time offensive player and a supporting cast that's playing well around him. I can't pick against that.
Carson, I'm trying to figure out how you came up with 6 games, because everything that you just mentioned, I don't see Indiana winning a game.
Yeah,
I see that. In 4 games.
What I think is
just said.
Go ahead, John.
I think one of the things that I look for Indiana is just how much dribble penetration can you really get? Because when we look at this team, how much are you going to be able to draw to? Because I mentioned this multiple times already. OKC, they give up the corner 3. They help off the corner. They send guys from the corner. If you put Neesmith and Nembhard there, a shooter and somebody that can dribble drive and really collapse the defense, maybe you can get this team in rotation. You have a guy like Hallie who makes decisions, the right decision multiple times. And if you have a Neesmith that can shoot the way he does from the corner, which the Pacers have as a team shot 47% from the corners, like you're going to have to be able to create avenues where you're getting 2 on the ball or you're just creating the defense to collapse. Now, do I trust the Pacers to do that consistently against this Thunder team? That's where I, pump the brakes just a little bit, because Hallie, as he has gotten better as an isolation scorer, I don't know if he's going to be able to consistently draw 2 against a Dort, Caruso, Kaysen, or maybe even a J-Dub just consistently. And then Carson, you brought it up. You just brought it up. You take Isaiah Hartenstein out the game. Now, who are you going to attack on the defensive side of the ball? You get quicker. You don't have those mismatches you can attack. And now it's like, how much are you really going to depend on creating really good dribble drive situations? Pascal Siakam, the same. Like I would put Caruso on Siakam and just see how that works. I would put Chet Holmgren maybe on the worst shooter in the starting 5, but all of them can get hot from 3. So I don't know how much you would necessarily go with that, but I think I trust a lot of these guys defensively one-on-one to cover against this Indiana Pacers team who just does not create those advantages as much as any other team should have to against this defense.
I also think you mentioned the Thunder letting up corner 3s at the clip they do. So much of that is scheme. So much of that is them being hyper aggressive with an Anthony Edwards, pretty darn aggressive, sending doubles at Julius Randle and whatnot. Now I think that we're looking at an entirely different matchup where they are going to be much less aggressive. And I also think that you mentioned the Chet Romer strategy. I think that this is the one series in which we don't see them do that. Obviously, he was guarding Jaden McDaniels for a vast majority of last series. At least in the starting 5, I don't see that player who he's roaming off of. It would have to be Aaron Neesmith, who is shooting 50% from 3 in these playoffs. So I'm good off that. I think have him match up with Siakam initially, and obviously there's going to be a lot of switching, but I think he can actually give Siakam hell with his length, with his ability to move his feet. I just think that they're a totally different level defense. And like, if I see one more person compare the Knicks defense to the Thunder defense, I actually am going to lose my mind, because I've seen that, and it's like, no, man. Indiana is the best basketball.
Whoa, hold on, Carson.
Yeah.
Where have you actually heard that at?
Well, probably just from Pacers fans. Probably just from Pacers fans. I don't know. I see people in the comments section. I'm like, dude, New York has 2 massive red target. Like, you got the spotlight on them every possession. Go at Brunson defensively. Go at Cat defensively. There is nobody like that on this Thunder team. It's one of the most complete bulletproof defenses we've ever seen. And the reason that I'm taking this to go 6, Chill, I am much closer to 5. I do think that OKC is just at that crazy level. I do think that we probably get just enough offensive inconsistency from the guys around Shea. There's probably a game where the shooting variance does really go in Indiana's favor. Maybe there's a game where they actually really dictate the transition battle. Like, the one thing I will say about the Pacers is I think that they are better equipped to avoid getting blown out in any game in this series than everybody else, because it happened to the Grizzlies twice where the Thunder just ran them off the floor, destroyed them. It happened to the Nuggets twice. It happened to the Timberwolves twice. Because of Indiana's offensive process and consistency and Hallie being the decision maker he is, and their overall offensive talent and their ability to protect the ball, their ability to get out in transition, I think they'll be more consistently competitive. And so I'm probably being a little optimistic and hoping for a good series when I go 6, but I would set the line at 5.5 games for this series. I think Indiana's really good.
The conversation that we had earlier when I told you about Thibs playing Mitchell Robinson, because second chance opportunities are going to be to our strength. That's one of the things that we have to capitalize on. Well, what is Indiana's strength? Indiana's strength is their transition offense. That's what it is more than anything. And if Oklahoma City can slow that down, now when we get into a half-court offense, we're talking about a team that's the best, not only the best in the league, one of the best in NBA history. What my idea is, and I don't know if you guys have heard me say this, but what my idea is, I'm treating Halliburton like Joe Montana. I'm treating Halliburton like Tom Brady. If I let this dude stand in the pocket all day and he's going to destroy me. I got to get pressure off him. I got to get that ball. I got to get the ball out of his hands, and I got to get those other guys. I got to get the ball in their hands. I got to make those other guys make plays. And when making those other guys make plays and speeding those guys up, I can get more turnovers, which means that I can get into my transition offense and I can turn my defense into offense, which is what Oklahoma City's strength is. Now, when I'm doing that, now when we get into half court, when you got guys like Nembhard, who's a damn good defender, but I think that he's undersized going up against, I think he's a little bit underwhelming when he's going up against SGA. When I think about as good as Siakam is, he doesn't attack the glass as much as I'd like for him to attack the glass. And when I got guys like Chet and I got guys like Hartenstein on the offensive end of the glass, when I got those guys, I think that that's going to be a huge problem for Indiana. So if I can get the ball out of Halliburton's hands and make those other guys make plays, and I can slow down Indiana's transition game, I think that they beat these dudes in 5 games.
Oh, that's an interesting strategy to me, Chill. I just kind of disagree. Not so necessarily with Hallie's skill set, but the way that I'm defending him. Hallie is so limited in terms of like on-ball creation that I'm content with defending him in single coverage, and I kind of trust all of my personnel to hold up. I think that if you're doing that, you're kind of playing into Halliburton's hands, where if we're sending extra defenders, he's going to pick that apart, I think, all series long. Like, that's his superpower, that when he does draw 2 to the ball, he's going to find that advantage. And it's not just the initial, like, say if you got doubled on the wing, you're kicking it to the strong side wing that you're on. He's great at making those skip passes cross court where he's killing you. I think my strategy, if I'm OKC, is to defend him as well as I can in single coverage and try not to send help whatsoever all series long. I think that when you're dealing with these great playmakers, we saw this a little bit in the Maverick series last season too against Oklahoma City. When you're sending 2 at a Luka Doncic, at a Halliburton, at a Jokic, these guys are such brilliant playmakers that they're going to kill you and they're going to make the best decision every time. So I actually think I'm doing the opposite of that, if I'm being honest. I think I'm defending him in single coverage.
And I'm glad you brought that up with the double team. So with the double team, I got to make sure that I'm sending the right double team. I'm not just doubling him. I'm not just blitzing him. I'm not just blitzing him at the break. I'm not just blitzing him at the top of the key. No, like what happened last year with Dallas. You know what? I will tip my hat to PJ Washington knocking down threes all night. You know what? I'll knock yourself out. Well, if I'm Oklahoma City Thunder, if Nesmith is going to knock down the long ball all night, and we're going to lose with Nesmith knocking down the long ball all night, if we're going to lose with
that's very different, Chill. PJ Washington was shooting like 25% from the corners. Aaron Nesmith is shooting 50% from 3 in the playoffs, and like 40% this regular season. And Hallie's not nearly the level of scoring threat that Luka is. Like, that's where I think you switch everything. Because if there's one area that Hallie struggles offensively, and I love the guy, I've been such a defender of his, beating straight up elite perimeter defenders as a scorer on an island is not his strength. He is able to do so much as a decision maker where he picks you apart. He can destroy drop coverage. He can destroy blitzes. He can destroy teams hedging. That's where I think you really get damage done to you when he gets the ball out and now Indiana has a 4-on-3. If I'm OKC, I am trying to stay out of rotation as much as possible because that ball moves faster with Indiana than it does anybody else. And OKC's defense is faster too when they go Chet at the 5. So yeah, they can rotate as well as anybody, but I'm looking at the fact that I can have Alex Caruso, Jalen Williams, I can have Lou Dort all out there on the court at the same time. All those guys switching on to Hallie. I'm trusting their ability to defend. Even Chet. Chet is a very gifted big guarding in space. I need to see Hallie prove that he can punish that matchup before I'm like, okay, we are doubling him. Because, like, to use the cross-sport comparison, man, I'm not blitzing Tom Brady. Tom Brady picks you apart more when you blitz because you give him an opportunity to attack.
The New York Giants shut him down when they blitzed him almost every down, and they only gave up 14 points. And back to your point when you talked about Halliburton, I don't think you give Halliburton enough credit for his shot creation. And I think Halliburton is a better shot creator than you give him credit for. And him being switched onto, I think he can take advantage of that matchup with him and Chet. 30 feet away from the basket, 28 feet away from the basket. I do think that he can take advantage of that. Now, as far as him, as far as getting the ball out of his hands when I'm at the break, I got to make sure that I'm doubling off I got to make sure that I'm doubling off the right people. And if I'm doubling off the right people, then I give myself an opportunity when I got Obi Toppin shooting the long ball at a ridiculous clip. I'm comfortable with Obi Toppin. I'm comfortable with giving up threes to Obi Toppin. I'm comfortable with giving up threes to Jarris Walker. I'm comfortable with giving up threes, if I'm being honest with you. I'm comfortable with consistently giving up threes throughout the course of the series to Nesmith. I am comfortable with that because what's going to happen is he's going to run himself to death having to deal with you guys on defense. I am comfortable. I'm not as comfortable with Tyrese Halliburton just one-on-one standing in front of whomever, whether it's Casey Wallace, whether it's not just Casey Wallace, but Caruso. I'm not comfortable with him just standing in front of these guys one-on-one because I want the ball out of his hands and I want those other guys to make decisions so we can speed up our transition game so we can get turnovers that way.
I don't know. I don't think the OKC Thunder are gonna bet on having another PJ Washington series in the finals. It's like we got all this way. If Nesmith is gonna kill us for 3 straight games where he has 25 on 6 for 9 3-point shooting, that would be a pretty damn way to go out after you learned your lesson in the semifinals last year. And a question I wanted to ask is, how much do y'all play Jarace Walker just as a switchable defender?
He's out for
the first 2 games.
Yeah, I think he got an ankle injury. So yeah,
so
maybe
0 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's going to.
I mean, I would like to see him later in the series. I think that he's just another look to throw at Shea. I certainly don't think he's the answer, but he's big. He is versatile defensively. I think that he's a good player. And I think that particularly in this matchup, you just want to maximize that defensive versatility.
Joel, talk to us. Who you got and in how many games?
I got OKC in 5. I think
you still haven't learned your lesson.
Oh, you're gonna maybe we should double down.
What you want to do?
If OKC wins the series outright, I don't gotta wear no Pacers merch.
All right, it got to be a sweep though.
See,
I'll meet you at 5.
You'll meet him at your prediction.
Yes.
Here's the thing. Now we can beat at 5. That's cool. Remember them draws?
I got
TikTok gonna get real sketchy.
I think that OKC is just a much better team, and there aren't many advantages the Pacers have in this series, if at all. All of the advantages they had leading up to this point are rendered useless in this matchup. The taking care of the ball security, well, OKC forces turnovers at an obscene rate. Getting out in transition, OKC is a better transition team. I think
actually, I mean, Indiana, not to cut you off, Joel, technically Indiana's #1 in transition point per game differential versus their opponents. Oklahoma City's second. So Indiana's been barely, I mean, obviously a lot of that has to do with the Knicks series, not to bring up bad memories.
Oh, yeah.
I do think that's important to mention.
Yeah, but I just think that OKC, not only defensively do they have all the answers for Indiana, and I do think that making Halliburton more of a scorer in this series and just playing one-on-one and switching everything is the way to go. But offensively, Indiana cannot guard them at all whatsoever. I think Shea is going to have a monster series. I'm expecting the same from J-Dub and Chet. If they go into more of a 5-out lineup and Hartenstein's on the bench, Chet in those lineups has been very impactful, just taking his matchups off the dribble. So I have OKC. I think that Indiana keeps it close, but ultimately they pull away in this series, and they've got this far without shooting the 3-ball well. So if we get a great 3-point shooting series from OKC, I think it looks even more rough.
Now, one thing I would love for this series is the Pacers just go out and take game 1. Like if they take game 1, I would be through the moon because we're gonna get a 6-7 game series if that happens. Just maybe. I would love to see the Pacers take game 1. Do I think it's gonna happen?
Where's Indiana? Where's Indiana in these playoffs? How many games have they lost at home? I mean, they lost to the Knicks, I think, in game.
I think
that's
3 of their 4 losses are at home.
How many?
I think 3 of their 4 losses are at home.
Right?
They lost to the Cavs at home, and they lost to the Bucks at home.
They lost to the Bucks at home.
Did they?
No, they went up 2-0. They lost game 3 in Milwaukee.
You're right. So maybe it's 2-2.
Yeah,
because I don't think this is if they lose, get to your point, John D. I mean, if they lose game 1, because we've seen this before where teams lose the first 2 games and they've come back and win the series. So if they end up going back home down 0-2, I mean, game 3 is going to tell me a lot about who this Indiana team is, no doubt. But I mean, I don't think it's a death sentence. I don't think that they have to win both of these games in Oklahoma City. They're going to have to win one of these games because Oklahoma City does have the home floor, but I don't think they have to win both game 1 and game 2. I think
OKC.
I think that the game is the most important. I think that they got to win both of their games at home. If they get Oklahoma City in game 5, that's the game that they got to win because I ain't picking them in game 7 if we go that far.
OKC has the highest point differential at home in a postseason that we've already seen ever in this playoff run. And it's actually not even close. They're plus 221 at home in 9 games. They've literally played 2 competitive games on their home floor. Everything else, they have blown the opposition out. So it's the hardest place to win in basketball. It's really not close. They're 44-7 at home this year. I think it's really hard to see Indiana getting one on the road. Now, I will say, if you're talking about a game 1 path for the Pacers, the one opportunity would be maybe if Daigneault is still starting Isaiah Hartenstein, I think that's an opportunity for the Pacers to have a defensive target. Like iHart really struggled in this matchup in the regular season. They were going at him defensively over and over again. They had early double-digit deficits in both of those games. OKC did. Now they came back to win them both, but they were -3 with iHart on the floor. They were +30 without him. So I don't like him starting in this matchup. And just, I mean, throughout these playoffs, like OKC's been most effective with Chet at the 5. They're a +18 net team with Chet at the 5. They're like a +1 net team when they go double big. Also, Chet's production, like per 75 possessions at the 5, he gives you 24 points on 66% true shooting. When he plays with Hartenstein, he gives you like 15 points on 49% true shooting. So I just think that they're more effective on both sides of the ball with Chet at the 5, especially in this matchup. And I've talked about the defense a lot, but also offensively, like I want to maximize my shooting around Shea for when they load up on him. If they try to go zone, I want to be able to go 5 out to counter that. But if they start with Hartenstein in the starting lineup, then I think that that's maybe an opportunity for Indiana to steal one. I think that that would be an advantage for them.
Logan?
Carson and I are pretty like-minded. We often share one brain cell, so I'm going to take the Thunder in 6 as well. But I don't think we should underestimate the Pacers, and we're talking about the pathways for the Pacers to win games. I think Carson brings up an excellent point where if 2 guys I'm going at, if I'm Halliburton with the ball in my hands, Hartenstein on switches on the perimeter, I think he's too slow, and then Kayson Wallace. And the reason I'm going at Wallace too is I think Halliburton can get shots over Kayson too, more than a lot of other guys. Like, and there's other guys down the roster, right? Like, if Isaiah Joe's on the floor, I'm going to go with him. I just don't expect him to play a lot in this series. But I think Indiana has to have a couple of things go their way to win games in this series. I think Dub and Chet need to be off in a couple of games to get a couple of wins, which I think is very possible. We saw in the Denver series, I thought Denver defended really, really well in that series, but I thought Chet and Dub's struggles came down to them just being off. Dub was missing all kinds of wide open layups at the rim. I mean, just bad. Was not making mid-range jump shots. Chet was off as a shooter as well. And so a couple of games where those guys are off. Transition, I think it's going to be a really interesting battle game to game where either team could win. Both of these teams fly up and down the court. I think that could be a wash. And then these are both elite shooting teams, but I do prefer Indiana shooting if we're talking about them in totality from behind the arc, where I think they could win the shooting battle in a couple of areas. It's not going to be easy because the reason that I am taking OKC in this series, Shea's going to eat. I don't think Indiana has a guy that can defend Shea one-on-one, but you gang up on Shea, you sell out on him defensively, you make other guys kill you. If they're off as shot makers, if Dub and Chet are off, I just think there are avenues and there are ways that Indiana can win this series. And the final component, if Oklahoma City makes that adjustment that Carson's talking about, where they play Isaiah Hartenstein less, maybe 16 to 20 minutes a night, I think Indiana could win the rebounding battle in those games, and they're going to have to win to come away with victories. So
this is a Hartenstein. So this is a series where Hartenstein may be the odd man out, where he's not going to.
I think so. And Carson and I talked about this in our preview. The reason that you went out and you got Hartenstein and Caruso this offseason was to give you that depth and versatility that you needed in previous matchups. You needed a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein for the Nikola Jokic matchup because you needed two big bodies, right? You needed Hartenstein and Caruso earlier in this playoff run because of the teams that you were facing. Now is the time where you pivot from that look because Indiana brings you a different look. They are a fast team that flies up and down the court, and I think Hartenstein could be a little bit more of a liability. And like Carson mentioned, those numbers are staggering with how effective Chet has been in lineups without Hartenstein on the floor. That could bring your offense up another notch where you're not also giving up defensively. So I'm going to take OKC to win. Like Carson, I'm closer to OKC in 5. But that being said, even though it's kind of tongue-in-cheek because I'm not taking the Pacers to win this series, I just wouldn't underestimate Indiana. I think that's the biggest mistake that you could make as a fan.
Second best record in the league since January 1st, 46-18. Only team that's been better is OKC. So I love Indiana. They're a very worthy finalist. I do think this OKC team is. Ron, if you had heard the things I've said about the Pacers, you saw I came on here. I was advocating for them against the Knicks. I was very confident they were going to win that series. I have been one of the biggest Hallie fans, man. Like, I'm just being realistic. This OKC team is just different. And I don't think picking the Pacers to lose to a 68-win team that was top 2 in net rating in NBA history, highest net rating by a finalist in the playoffs since the 2017 Warriors, picking you to lose to that team at 6, that's not disrespect, man. If anything, I think it's respect to give them 2 games.
I couldn't even get a 7 out of nobody. Oh, nobody got my dogs taking it to 7. Morris? I'm sorry, I didn't. OKC in 7?
No, Pacers in 6.
Let's go, Big Mars. That's what I'm talking about, baby. But my only thing is, guys, we act like this is the dream team going against Angola. We act like the Pacers just don't stand a chance.
I would not pick the dream team to beat Angola in 6.
I wouldn't.
I'm picking them to get 2 games, Ron.
I wouldn't pick the dream team to beat OKC. So I mean,
yo, you see.
But I am picking the Pacers. I said Pacers in 6. So do that what you will.
I just don't like how, from the betting odds to everything, that people act like the Pacers just don't stand a chance to win this series. Not to win a game, not to win 2 games, to win this series. And I'm just like, the Pacers have avenues, and they're not even being acknowledged. All I hear about is this ferocious defense. Shea's unstoppable. If they put Chet at the 5, it's absolutely curtains. And I just don't believe that. Like, Indiana doesn't have versatility. Like, Indiana can't go 10-11 deep. Like, Indiana don't have a mastermind championship caliber coach. Like, Indiana doesn't have a superstar point guard. I don't know. For the last 2 years, I've watched Indiana shred every single defense that's been thrown at them. The Boston Celtics included. Y'all remember last year? Yes, they did get swept. But if y'all remember, it was 4 close games. The Boston Celtics didn't mop the floor with them last year. They did not.
Indiana choked a couple of those away, too.
They did. They did.
And this OKC defense, as good as that Boston defense is multiple tiers above. Like, that's just the point, man. That number that I said, they held opposing offenses further below their regular season level than any team to make the finals in NBA history. We're not talking about a great defense. We're not talking about the best defense of the last 5 years. We're talking about the best defense of at least the last 2 decades and maybe the best defense in the modern era. That's what this OKC team is.
So what offenses are we talking about? Can we highlight these offenses? The Grizzlies, we could put a ribbon on
regular season.
All right, for sure. And remember, we could put context to that series too. There was a guy that wasn't there for a couple games, and there was a guy
who wasn't there for the whole series.
Thank you. Thank you. There was a guy who just.
There's a reason.
Well, that's not a coincidence.
No doubt. You're right. Okay. But be that as it may, top 10.
Gotta look next year.
Down. But Memphis posted a 97 offensive rating. You know the last team to actually post an offensive rating that low in the NBA over a season? The 2015 Process Sixers. So it's not like, oh yeah, they held them in check. Like, no, they held them like 20 points below their regular season offensive rating. Then they held the Nuggets with Nikola Jokic, what has been one of the best offenses in basketball for multiple years, right? One of the historic offenses when they won the title. They held them to a Washington Wizards offensive rating. Like, that's what we're talking about here. So I'm not saying the Pacers are going to melt down. I'm saying the Pacers aren't going to look like they usually do.
Based on trends.
They held them to that and went 7 games. So
because their offense wasn't as sharp as it was last year. So if anything holds the Thunder back, it's going to be their offense.
That's true.
But I feel much more confident in their offense with how last series went. I think Shea is just playing at a special level. He's only grown as a playmaker throughout these playoffs. I don't think the Pacers can keep him in check as a scorer. And maybe if their 3-point shooting goes cold again, that would be the thing that keeps OKC within range of an Indiana upset. I just think the shooting we got from them in the first 2 rounds was unusually below their level. I'm not saying it's impossible because there are certain questionable, inconsistent spot-up guys on this team for sure. But I would lean closer to their offense looking like it did last series in terms of the guys around Shea.
I'm trusting the trends with OKC. They made Jaren Jackson and Desmond Bain struggle. They made Jokic and Jamal Murray struggle. They made Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle struggle. I'd be surprised if they didn't make Halliburton and Siakam also struggle.
Yeah. But this is also the thing too. And you're right, Joel. You're 100% right. But this is the thing. The Pacers offensively have a more balanced attack and a more methodical approach than any of them other teams. Their offense has to run through Jokic. Yeah. Jaren Jackson and Ja Morant are the heart.
And I think that gets you a game.
They are everything for them on offense. Anthony, Ant-Man, he got to do everything for that team. Now, yes, Halliburton has to do what he does. Pascal Siakam got to get busy. But we legitimately have 5 guys that can space the floor at pretty much all times. No, at all times. In the game, we'll have 5 guys that can space the floor, 5 guys that can move the ball, 5 guys that move without the ball, 5 guys that run in transition. None of those other teams play in that way. We're not trying to beat you with 1 guy. We are trying to beat you with 5.
Well, and that's why
it's a complete difference.
Well, 2 things. That's why I think that Indiana will have the best, most consistent offensive series against OKC that we've seen. They're just still going to be held comfortably below their normal offensive production. And also, that's why you're going to see a very different offensive or a defensive approach from OKC, where they're not going to be focused on overwhelming 1 or 2 stars. They are going to be, again, switching everything, staying home more. This is what I would expect at least, and trusting their ability to defend everybody one-on-one.
So,
I think
so
it's
they're not
just
doing
a
that
different
overhelp
strategy.
stuff, that load-up stuff?
I don't expect it. I mean, maybe they'll help aggressively on certain drives. I don't think that they're doing what they did against Ant. They're not loading up on Hallie. They're not blitzing Hallie.
What about Pascal?
Maybe you'll see some selective doubles with Pascal. I think you'll also see a lot of them just making it hard as hell to get him the ball, fronting. And then, like, the crazy thing about OKC is, man, that backside double can come from a dude on the weak side. We saw this multiple times against Julius Randle where Shea is on, like, the opposite side of the basket, right? He's on the baseline 20-something feet away. And the second that you loft up that entry pass, he's sprinting over and he's making a play. So I also think that's the other thing. Like, even when they are aggressive, their speed is the craziest I've ever seen. So they do have that ability to recover at a different level. But overall, I think that this is a less aggressive schematic approach from OKC defensively in this series. Siakam is the one where I could see them doubling, but I also think they'll see, okay, how does J-Dub look defending on an island? How do Caruso and Dort off switches maybe look defending on an island? And I think the answer will be pretty damn good, man. Like, all these big mismatch attacking forwards have melted down versus OKC. And I don't think Siakam melts down. I think he's better than Randall. I think he's better than Triple J offensively. I still think he's in for a hell of a tough series.
All right. One thing I do want to throw out there for the Pacers, and I think it was John, you alluded to PJ Washington and his ability to kind of shoot the Mavericks to a win. I do want to put it out there that over the playoffs, just a couple numbers, Thomas Bryant is shooting 53%. I know he's not our big-time shooter, but he's just shooting the best, so I started with him. Aaron Nesmith is shooting 50%. Logan mentioned that, but not just on corner threes, on threes in general. Andrew Nembhard is shooting 48%. This is over the whole course of the playoffs. Pascal Siakam, 46%. Ben Shepherd, 42%. Miles Turner, 40%. Jarris, 40%. Pascal's only shooting 33%. I mean, not Pascal. Hallie's only shooting 33%, so he has to get it going. But I don't want to necessarily say miracle ball and like we just have to get crazy hot from three. But obviously, the Pacers are a very good three-point shooting team. If the Thunder are loading up and want to overhelp and things like that, I think that is a path to 1 or 2 victories. Being able to get extremely hot and just, hey, let it fly. Now, I mean, Mars, I know this may sound contradictory because you know how I feel about the Boston Celtics and their brand of play. So I'm not necessarily saying just chuck up every three you can get. But if they're giving you daylight and if they're sagging off you and if they're helping heavily, we got to punish them from the three-point line. We have to. The three-point line has to be our biggest asset. If we're not hitting threes, I think it's like we might as well just,
This feels like the Miami Heat in 2023 when they just were scorching hot from three heading into the finals. I think the Pacers have a better offense, of course, but they lost in 5 to Denver and they were coming into the series hot.
That Heat team was literally shooting 48% from three. Like, that was a much faker. This Indiana team is way better than that Miami. They're much less dependent on the three-point shooting because even though they're shooting great from deep, they're not a super high volume three-point shooting team. Like, they're the best offense in basketball. I don't want to take that away. They are super smart. They're going to have counters. They've got some of the most layered actions. They've got some of the quickest hitting actions. Like Ron said, everybody on the floor can put the ball on the floor, can make passes, can make reads, can shoot from deep. They're a great offense. OKC's just a different level.
That'll get them a game in this series.
Indiana's biggest advantage throughout these playoffs has been the fact that they are so great at exploiting weak points on other teams' defenses. And the biggest issue to me in this series is just that Oklahoma City doesn't have that weak point, right? New York, they're constantly going at a Brunson and a Cat. If it's Cleveland, if you were attacking a Garland, for example, I mean, they didn't even play, but like, you know what I mean?
Jared Allen was targeted a lot in that series.
It's like that's their superpower. And with Oklahoma City, those weak points are just fewer and farther between. That's why I say Hartenstein should play less. If it's an Isaiah Joe, it's like, are you going to go with Caruso? He's going to wall you up. Are you going to go with Dort? He's going to wall you up. J-Dub, SGA. It is a comical amount of all NBA, like all defense caliber guys they got.
I know that Oklahoma City is as good as they are defensively, but I mean, Indiana is very much like a great team that just doesn't stop what they're good at. And we haven't had anybody slow them down in terms of their transition. Like when you get into half court, that might be a little bit different because Oklahoma City is really good in half court. I'm not going to argue that point. But I feel like Indiana, they consistently play fast. Even when you try to slow them down, they still are going to push the pace. They still are going to force the issue. They still, when that ball comes out of the net, they're going. They're still, when that ball comes off the glass, when you're shooting long threes, they're still going. So you're going to have to consistently deal with that, not just in stretches, for the entire game. That's not something that we're just going to do. We're just going to exploit a mismatch here and there. We're going to exploit. No, our bread and butter is we are going to speed the game up and we are going to make the game fast for the majority of the game. That's our plan. And
does OKC not love that too, Chill? Or are they not going to be as good in that play style?
With that, Carson. The difference with that is that OKC speeds the game up on defense, which turns into offense. Indiana, with Tyrese Halliburton, he's one of the best players in the game at taking care of the basketball, which is why I want to get the ball out of his hands and I want to get the ball in other people's hands to make those guys make plays. I just feel like this Oklahoma City team back to Logan's point, I think that they are going to consistently come at you. They're not going to stop. When they fall 10 in the hole, when they fall 12 in the hole, they're going to still push the pace. They're going to still play fast. They're still going to crack the long ball. They're still going to get the ball out of the net, and they're still going to run. They're going to keep that pressure on Oklahoma City as a transition defense to consistently do that. And I think that could be to their strength. Ron, I understand you worrying about your long ball. Yes, I get that. But when you consistently running, I think that you're going to get better shots, especially when you got a team like Oklahoma City, as good as they are, when you can put them on their heels. I think you're going to get better shots at the long ball line. I don't think you're going to be contested as much.
I just want to add, too, because I feel like we haven't mentioned this. Ron was talking about the strengths of this Indiana offense. Yeah. They do have 10 or 11 guys that can kill you on any given night, and I do think that is the strength, that Neesmith can get hot. Turner can have a big game. Nembhard can have a big game. McConnell, Toppin. That is the one thing that I will give credence to, and why I expect Indiana to win a game or two is not only because of their identity, but because they have so many different guys with different skill sets that could kill you. And then Mathurin, right? We saw Mathurin have 2 20-point games in this last series. Like, they have a lot of guys down the roster that can have big games, and that is a strength outside of what they do schematically well, too. And I don't want to discredit that, Chill. You talking about their transition offense. I mean, hell, if OKC has and I really believe in this OKC transition defense, too, but if Oklahoma City has an off shooting night and there are these long rebounds, I could see even Indiana having a big transition game, too. Like, I don't want to characterize this as a utter beatdown. I expect Indiana to get a couple of games in this series. I expect Indiana to win with their brand of basketball. I don't look at this as David and Goliath. I look at this as Goliath and a good contender. I do think
good, Logan, at what we do. I mean,
I'll say this right now, though.
What we do too.
I think Indiana. This is no disrespect to Indiana at all. I think if Indiana gets 2 games off a legendary, historic, I think this is we're going to look back at this as a legendary basketball team and what they achieved this year, and a legendary season from an all-time guard. And I think if Indiana takes 2 games away from them, we shouldn't be saying anything negative about, like Joel said with the Heat.
Hang the banner.
Hang the banners. That's crazy. They're not the 2020 Heat to me. They're not the 2023 Heat to me. They are a different caliber of contender. The only difference is we're looking at a legendary OKC basketball team.
What's your prediction, Chill? Because I feel like you're acting like we're being disrespectful saying Thunder in 6. What are you expecting?
I think
he's about to say Thunder in 6.
No, I was going to say 5, actually.
Okay.
I was going to say 5, and the reason the reason why I'm saying that is because again, everything that I said about Indiana not being able to, I think it's the ultimate test for Oklahoma City's defense. I do. I just think it's the ultimate test for who they are as a transition defense, as a half-court defense, and Oklahoma City, as good as Joker is, because Joker's the best in the world. I'm not going to argue that point. They haven't seen a team like this in Indiana that's not going to stop. Like when it comes to Joker, when we throwing the ball on the box to Joker, as good as Joker is at playmaking and navigating defenses and passing out of double teams, as good as he is at doing that, like we can load up and we can shoot gaps. We can do things like that. Yo, when you got a team, for lack of a better term, Ramen, this may be a pause, but when you got a team constantly shoving the ball down your throat, man, it is hard to deal with that, yo. It is hard when a team is consistently running at you. It's hard when a team, they won't stop. Like, you're looking up at the clock and you're like, damn, it's 6 minutes in the second quarter, and these dudes got 45 points because they're not going to stop running. And we got to keep getting back on defense. We get the point of attack when let's say Cason Wallace is picking up, let's say, Halliburton, but meanwhile, they're getting the ball up the floor quicker and they're getting right to Siakam for a stop and pop that quickly. And you're like, damn, we got to slow that down. And then when you slow that down, Halliburton's got the ball back and he's going. So that kind of stuff, when it doesn't stop, I just think this is the ultimate test for who Oklahoma City is as a defense. And if they can slow that down, I think that they can stifle. I think they can stifle Indiana, because I don't think Indiana I don't think that they have an answer for that. As good as their half-court offense is, I don't think that they have an answer for that.
Hey, Chill.
Sir.
Who knocked out Mike Tyson?
Buster Douglas.
What round was it?
In round 10. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That shit was
And that was
rigged, man.
crazy.
They drugged Tyson, man. That shit was mad rigged.
Pacers and 10.
Mike Tyson was drugged by that Japanese.
That's
you know
what I
what?
got from
He was he got drugged by that Japanese. He said it himself. They was over there doing you know what with them Japanese girls. He wasn't thinking about no damn Buster Douglas. No, he wasn't. I'm pretty confident Shea and Casey Wallace and all of them dudes is like, yo, this Indiana team is serious, and we are not walking in here like, all right, we're just gonna walk by these dudes, because that's how you get your front teeth knocked out.
Hey, well, I hope they've been in touch with their new dentist, because I'm here to tell y'all. Yeah, y'all think it's going 6? It ain't. Pacers in 5.
Hey, Ron, my best friend, he got Indiana smoking these dudes. I'm like, what the hell am I missing that I have not seen? He said he got Indiana running these dudes out the arena in 5 games. He just doesn't see how Oklahoma City can contend with their transition game.
Y'all be prepared to be shocked. I could give y'all 1,000 reasons why I got OKC losing in 5. I could do that. But
what's one good reason, Ron? Give me one good reason why Oklahoma City loses in 5 games. Like, they only get 1 game off these dudes.
Tony Bradley comes in there and like breaks SGA's leg or something, man. That's it.
No.
That's it, bruh. Y'all want me to be honest? That's the only way. I don't want that to happen.
I'd still pick the Thunder, but
Bill Mars.
Yeah.
all right, y'all. Well, we got super chats, so let's go ahead and get into them.
Yep.
Cowboy Bob sent through. Well, you guys know what Cowboy Bob sent through. This is what he had to say. He said, Thibs elevated quickly Sam's Toppin, iHeart, but y'all forget that. Also, should have kept Bryant rather than let him walk to the Cavs. Management should have promoted Bryant earlier this season. Go New York, go.
No, he didn't elevate Toppin. Toppin was on his
I
way
was
out
about to say.
No, he did not.
Toppin was held back.
Toppin looked like he was on his way out the league. He looked incompetent in some spaces. Toppin looked like he had no idea what he was doing. No way did he.
Halliburton saved Toppin, man.
Yes,
He was good. He just needed time. He just needed more minutes to play.
No, he's a Hallie merchant. He's for sure a Hallie merchant.
Oh, absolutely.
Also, we're saying he elevated Jericho Sims to what?
Nothing.
Yeah.
No.
Hey, respect Jericho.
How much better did Jericho Sims look in Milwaukee?
In New York? Yeah, he wasn't a rotation level player in New York. And now he's kind of a rotation level player, I guess.
Yeah, Thibs gave him motivation because he wasn't playing. So, he had to be motivated.
That's a great point.
To play. Exactly. No
Good point, Mars.
Mars, you don't think he's good at basketball. What kind of motivation does he get? Like, to be better at basketball when he ain't even good at basketball?
Besides the point.
That's the entire point. That's why he ain't playing, because he ain't good at basketball.
That's besides the point. Thibs motivated.
JT Blix sent through a super chat and said, I know Indy will do anything to keep Nembhard, but what if Minnesota got a guy like him who was ready to step into a bigger role?
I'd drop a bag on Nembhard. I mean, I don't think Minnesota's got the money to pay a guy like Nembhard, but
what's the gap between Nembhard and Alexander Walker?
I don't know. I mean, they're both really good role players, high level. I don't think you'd be able to pay both of them. I mean, Nembhard's way more of a primary ball handler and like actual like creator. I probably prefer Alexander Walker as like a perimeter shooter and a defender, but I mean, they're both really valuable guys. I'm probably paying both of them. Y'all think 20 to 25 mil? Is that too much for both of them?
Nembhard's getting paid 18 mil, 19 mil next year, and 20 mil the year after that. He's on a pretty good team-friendly deal.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
I'd love Nembhard on the Wolves. I think he'd be really good for them.
Starter. I mean, you're putting him at point guard tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe they could call up the Pacers, trade, Rob Dillingham, go get him.
All right, the next super chat we got is from MVG League. The MVG League said, with this OKC team having a historic defensive season, can we have the convo of them being a potential top 5 defense of all time? If so, what other great teams would join in that category?
Got the
absolutely
04 Pistons. I think the Spurs. I think it was 04 or 05. One of those Spurs teams are in there. The 08 Celtics.
04.
You got Bill Russell's teams if we're going back that far.
64. That 64 Celtic team was incredible on defense.
Yeah, all of them.
Seeing it live. So.
OKC could be right in that conversation. I think I'm missing a few teams off the
Yeah, I
top
mean,
of
you
my
I mean, the
definitely get
90s, the
90
90s Bulls.
Yeah, 99 Spurs, I think, are a better defense than 04 just because they still had Robinson, and that's the best rim
The
protection
Knicks
duo
had some
ever.
really good defenses in the
94
early 90s.
Knicks, crazy. Yeah.
94 Rockets.
Miami had some good defenses in the late 90s.
97, the 97,
For
97
sure.
Miami Heat was fantastic.
For sure.
There's also like the Indiana Pacers from like the mid 2010s were really good.
Yeah, I think that's kind of second tier,
the
but they were
Raptors
great.
in
The
98
Bulls
were
of the early 2010s.
I
I would say-
I think that 92 Bulls defense was better than any other Bulls defense that they had.
Really better than
includes
the
that
96
96
Bulls.
that
is the
includes
better than
the
96 when you had
and the
Rodman
90
and Harper.
and the 90s, the 97 defense and the 97 defense. I think the 92 Bulls are the best iteration of the Bulls. That's just me.
I can agree with that because offensively, I think.
Yeah,
they're better.
I think that's the
96
best.
Bulls defensively.
But in terms of defense, I mean, Scottie Pippen in 1992, number one, he was much more athletic than he was in 1996. He was older. He still was awesome, but he was older. Michael Jordan was also older in 1996. He had just come back from playing baseball, and he did get himself back acclimated. They did have the best rebounder in the game at that point, but they also had an all-league defender in Horace Grant. He didn't make the all-league defensive team, I think, until 93, but he was an all-league level defender at that point. One of the best rebounders in the game. I think B.J. Armstrong was one of the best point of attack defenders in the league at that point. They had 9 guys that were awesome on defense, and relative to the competition at that point, they were fantastic. If I'm thinking about the defense that I saw in 1992 relative to 96, 97, I think that's the best defense that Bulls team had.
I can't take him over the 96 group.
Yep.
I just think Rodman alone is such a massive addition, and also Ron Harper being one of the best defensive guards on the planet. But that group's probably in the top 5. But I do think that this OKC team is absolutely there. I mean, like I said, the playoff resume up to this point, relative to competition, is arguably the most impressive that we've ever seen. In the regular season, they were like a top 15 relative defensive rating team that we've ever seen. That was without their most valuable regular season defender in Chet for 50 plus games of the year. So that is already an unprecedented accomplishment to be that great defensively, missing a defender that great for that much of the year. And the one thing that I think makes their case really interesting is that not only are they among the absolute best ever at getting stops, they are the best ever at turning defense into offense. You've talked about this, Chill, but they have the best scoring margin off of turnovers in a postseason that we've seen in the 20 plus years that we have that data. They generate the most points off turnovers that we've seen in the 20 plus years that we have that data. So that ability to not just shut down opposing offenses, but do it in a way where you are forcing so many turnovers, and now you're one of the best transition offenses. Your defense directly leads into offense like that. It's an extremely valuable and unique thing that this OKC defense has that a lot of these other all-time great defenses don't have. So they have to be up there. I think that they are top 5.
This Oklahoma City defense in 2024-25 or the Warriors defense in 15-16.
I would take this OKC defense.
I think their defense with KD was better.
I agree.
The 2017 Warriors, I would still take this team over. I think that their speed is even greater than that group, even though up to this point, I would say that was the fastest defense I've ever seen when they went with the death lineup. I think that this group with Chet at the 5 is even faster. I think that they have even more elite defensive personnel. I think that their rim protection is on another level because Chet is quietly one of the best rim protectors of this century, pure rim protectors. No, he's not food at the rim.
Yes, he is. He's just not food at the rim regularly. That's all. Yes, he is.
When is he food at the rim? When is he food at the rim, Joe?
Yes, he is.
He's holding on that. They holding on to that for dear life.
Sorry, who are we talking about?
Chet
Holmgren.
The guy who literally had the best opponent field goal percentage at the rim, the lowest in all of basketball. That guy's food at the rim, Joe?
If it wasn't 0%, then that means they scored.
He's one of the best rim protectors in basketball, man.
They call him Chet Hamburger. From what I heard,
I said, Carson. I said that in that Oklahoma City series, I felt like if Ant could penetrate that perimeter defense, I think that Chet is food at the rim against him. That's what I said.
Well, You were wrong
Was
on
he?
that
Yeah.
one, but
Against Ed, was he?
There's never been a day in Chet's life where he's been through the rim.
no.
But what with in this
Even when he
last
came out of the
series,
womb, he was protecting the rim. I don't know what to tell you.
in it,
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
super chats. Back up sent through a super chat and said, "In your opinion, who is a better player right now, Chet or Gobert?"
Oh, this is
For
easily
sure,
Chet.
Chet.
No
Yeah, it's
debate.
not even close, man.
Yeah, move on.
And I'm a Rudy guy, and I wouldn't subscribe to that. No.
Yeah. Chet
No
Bauer.
way.
Also, dude, me and Carson been talking about it a lot, dude. Chet has been yamming stuff this year in the playoffs. Like,
Mhm.
He's dunking
I mean,
everything.
on the closeouts, it's ridiculous.
Chet's very good on offense, and this is something I was highlighting during the regular season when people were having their concerns about OKC. I was saying like I'm high on Chet's offensive ability. But he shows us he stretches the floor, he puts the ball on the floor very well. He'll finish at the rim. You forget that he's 7 foot. He can still catch alley-oops. He's mobile, and like I am concerned with Miles Turner having a guard Chet Holmgren. I'm 100% concerned about that. I think that he can light Miles Turner up. Will he? I don't know, but does he have the capability to? 100%. And then also J-Dub too. Like J-Dub is a legit number 2 option in the NBA. A legit next to anybody. So
I think
they're good on offense.
I think Chet averages 20 a game this series pretty damn efficiently. And I think his ceiling, you give him a full healthy offseason and a full healthy season.
J-Dub?
I mean, J-Dub's just going to have more volume. I think he'll be much more efficient. I think that he'll have a better series than J-Dub. I would guess that they're probably pretty close in raw scoring volume, but that's a step up for Chet because J-Dub's been scoring more than him overall. But I also think Chet's ceiling, man, top 5. I think he has a top 5 ceiling, and I think he will be a top 10 player because he can still get so much better from here, and he's already among the handful of best defenders on the planet, but there's so much to tap into offensively.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Chet is just as skilled as Wemby?
No.
Wemby look at that
No.
dude. Wemby look at him like
No.
he's food now.
Skilled?
No.
And Wemby
talking
for real
about
look
skill?
at Chet.
Yeah,
I'm just
I don't
talking
mean,
about
we're talking about
skill. Like just
like,
skill. I know he's
with
not
the
a better
ball?
player,
I
but
think-
skill.
Yeah.
Remarkably,
Yeah.
Remarkably, Wemby has surpassed him as a shooter in year 2, which I would not have seen from them as prospects. So that's a pretty big deal. I think that Chet is like clearly a better ball handler. Part of that is just being 4 inches shorter. It's easier. I think that Chet is an underrated passer, but I think that Wemby is a more gifted passer. So I would say that Wemby is probably a little bit more skilled.
Wait, when you say he surpassed him as a shooter, along what lines? Like he's better off the
38%
dribble.
on 9
Yes.
attempts.
He's better off the
yeah.
dribble, deeper range,
Yeah.
more
He shot
comfortable
35.
getting
He
it.
shot 35%.
Oh,
36, I
35.
thought. But that's on
35
9 attempts. Chet is giving you 37% on like 4 attempts, and there are stretches where he's
Wemby's
shooting
also
it
a
flat,
better
he's
free
leaving it
throw shooter.
short, he doesn't
So-
trust it. Yeah, I think Wemby's touch is very impressive. I think that Chet is a very good 3-point shooting big, but he's not doing the stuff that Wemby's doing, and there are stretches where it's like, Chet, that looks pretty shaky, like he just doesn't look confident in his shot in a way that I don't think Wemby ever really goes through those lulls.
Yeah, I don't think it's a major gap in terms of skill. You can say Wemby got his 3-point shot maybe a little better. You could say he got a little more touch, but
Chet's a
Chet
freak,
is-
man.
Yeah,
Chet's a freak. If there weren't a Wemby, Chet would be the guy we're all calling a unicorn. I said he was the best prospect since AD when he came out, and he's just consistently kind of gotten underrated, I think. But he's a special talent.
I agree.
Void Century said, if you're the Wolves, would you trade Gobert, McDaniels, Dillingham for Darius Garland, Jared Allen, and
No.
Dean Wade?
No.
We're doing a
You have
team swap here.
McDaniels.
No. So would I put Donovan Mitchell on the Timberwolves and would I put Anthony Edwards on the Cavs? That's what you're asking me. Pretty much.
Yeah.
No.
Esco said, Jordan Ott just got the Phoenix job. Welcome back home, Johnny Bryant. Hashtag Knicks 2026.
Them odds for him probably already changed. For Johnny Bryant to New York, they probably already changed drastically.
Nice.
I said drastically.
Shout out, Johnny. Welcome home. Eddie Wilson said, I don't know if people realize that New York has Washington's unprotected first-round pick next year. Potentially the number 1 pick.
I had no
It's
idea.
one
I think
to-
there's a protection on that.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
1
think
to
so.
10 protected.
Yeah,
okay, so I was gonna say if Washington didn't have their pick next year,
What?
that's concerning.
DSG Piccolo said, I mean, they saved my franchise too. We not getting Tumani without Aiton's bum ass being included. Dub Suns.
Shout out to Tumani making all defense. I feel like I didn't get enough love. I didn't
That's
think
cool.
the voters would give him his flowers, but shout out to him. Unlucky to Bam for missing out, but shout out to Tumani.
Yeah.
MTHJ 301 said Sporkle has good NBA trivia games. Numbers on the board plays them on their second page videos, and KD should just come home to Dub Nation.
I wonder how the Warriors fans feel about KD. Like, I don't know. Like, do they appreciate KD or do they hate on KD?
I'm pretty sure they like him.
Can't tell a story
Yeah.
without KD. You can't do it.
Because I
him.
don't know. Maybe I just see a lot of Steph stands on my timeline, but they seem to be minimizing what he brought to the team.
I think that is true. I mean, it was kind of like a mercenary vibe. It was like, okay, here he is for 3 years, but he never really felt like a core part of the team, like the fabric of the Warriors dynasty, even though obviously he was an amazing player, top 3 player on the planet. But yeah, I don't think that Dubs fans have a ton of love for him necessarily. I kind of think it would have been a lot more fun if they had just run it back and the KD trade had never happened, and we could have seen the next couple of years of the Cavs Warriors rivalry play out in a way that was maybe more balanced. And it probably would have been better for Steph's legacy too, because I think he would have gotten at least one of those 2 rings without KD anyways. So it's kind of a weird dynamic.
All right, y'all. Shout out to Zaire Lewis. Zaire became a YouTube member today, and you should do the same. Shout out to Huncho. He sent through a members chat, and he just said at NerdSesh.
Shout out Huncho.
At NerdSesh.
Glaze.
But Baba sent through a members chat as well and said, shout out to LDBC.
Lion Den basketball community.
Dub Mo for wanting Harden's sweat on him.
No, nice one, Ron. Nice one.
That's a good audible there, Ron.
Wanting his sweat on him.
Nice.
Trayvon Ray said, I like how fans just pretending like Tibbs had no reason to not play Shamet and Wright, like these dudes didn't struggle to get minutes on the Wizards.
That's where I'm at. Like,
I agree.
This depth was not good. The fact that they came in and contributed, especially Shamet, contributed against the Pacers. He deserves credit for doing that. But there wasn't just like this was the obvious answer the whole year to play Landry Shamet. That wasn't the case.
I just couldn't believe Deuce didn't play
tell me it was
as much. I felt like we got too much DeLon Wright towards the end of that series. Like, I don't.
No, I agree with Mars, though. People being like, we had to use the bench more when they used the bench a lot more than I would have expected. I don't agree, Logan. Or I don't disagree. I think the Deuce should have played more. I agree with that. But the idea that like we should have been getting more Shamet and DeLon Wright is kind of crazy to me. I think that they got as much out of them as like you ever could have hoped for.
NV said, replace Kobe with Allen Iverson on the 3-peat team. How many rings do they win? I think 0 if everything stays the same.
No, they win because they got Shaq.
Yeah.
No, maybe
you don't win in 2000.
Yeah, Allen Iverson was better in 2000.
They
100%.
Yes.
I mean, how much do they lose with replacing Kobe's all-league defense with Allen Iverson's defensive liability?
Sure.
Like that's the question. But then does AI make up for that on offense? I don't know. It's weird hypothetical.
I think they get 2000 for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely.
Man, Reggie Miller
Outside of
winning
that,
the
it might get
championship,
tricky.
man. I don't know what to tell you.
JT Blix with another super chat and said, everything the Pacers do well, the Thunder exploit. This is different than any other game they played this year. Pacers will win in 6 to 7.
I'm just really excited about this series. I really want to see how they. I really want to see how they handle these dudes. I do. I'm really interested to see how they handle them.
I want to see the Pacers win. They won't, but I want to see it.
That'd be incredible.
Last but not least, my man Tank Jones sent through a super chat, and he has a very delicate but serious question for everybody out there. Well, not for everybody out there. Tank Jones said, to the nerds, what are your thoughts on some panel members today thinking Chet is food at the rim. Not good at the rim. Food.
Hey, Tank. First of all, don't say some panel members. Just say me, because that's what
And
you're
Ox.
talking about.
And Ox. No, he's talking about you.
Yes,
And Ox.
No, I saw Ox on the timeline.
Yeah,
Really
it's both.
So
Yeah, it's both.
you can say me. That's cool. I did say that. No
If
doubt.
Chet's food, he's like a 5-course meal, and he's clogging arteries.
Well said. Well said.
It's food.
Chet's
I
one of
did
them
say that.
poison berries. It's like technically you could eat it, but you're gonna die. But like, go ahead.
I did say that.
It's technically
Yeah.
food, so I guess.
Yeah, I think Chet's one of the most talented rim protectors I've ever seen. I think that he is technically perfect. His verticality, his timing, his instincts, and then he's got a 7'6" wingspan. We already went over this, but he held opposing players 18% below their average field goal percentage at the rim this year. That's like the biggest number I've ever seen from a volume rim protector. So he's insane at the rim.
Yeah, but it wasn't 100% below. So.
Good point. Good point, Marsh.
All right, y'all. It has been real. Before we get up out of here, you guys know exactly where to find these guys at. You guys know about Pick a Side. You guys know about Nerd Sesh. If you don't, go follow their platform, subscribe, become a member, do all of that good stuff. And in the meantime, in between time, we'll keep kicking out that good content for y'all.
Later. Nerds. I love nerds. Later, fellas.
Tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, for the finals, you know where to find us at on Playback. We'll be there, and you should too. We out.